the stars of 4 Kids will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light
what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air,
Gave proof through the night
that our flag was still there.
Oh, say does that star-spangled
Banner yet wave
o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Happy 4th of July from all of us at 4 Kids TV.
Partying is cool. Dying is not.
Well, you know it is a thrill when you go downhill, 'cause you're riding on the mountain of your own free will. And you're zipping in a flash on a daring dash, down a waterfall so rapid that you go split splash. Splash Mountain!
I heard Discovery Zone's got this excellent new Men in Black laser adventure. Save the Earth from the slime of the universe, and they'll make you an honorary MIB agent. There's this video wall, and birthdays are blasted easy. They're almost everywhere. Are you ready for the new DZ?
Back in my bad girl days. I know what you're thinking. Really? Look, I was younger, I was thinner. It was a long time ago. I used to slip down on a Friday night to the local tavern and sing with this fab jazz R&B piano guy. You know, Billie Holiday, all the classics. So in light of Bad Girls of the Bible, I figured, why not Bad Girls Gone Jazz? Eve had a hunger that cost her a garden.
Welcome to the Bombadcast.
Sorry about him. He might show up again. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bombadcast. Super excited to have all of you here tuning in right now. All 15 of you. Really means a lot to me for you to show up to hear us talk about a movie that came out 40 years ago. All that being said, if you haven't been here before, every Thursday we hang out, we chill, We got some fun stuff planned the next couple of months. But this is every Thursday, a Star Wars experience, we call it. It's fun, it's live, and as always, it's not scripted, it's Bombad. So super pumped to have our guest coming up in a second. And if you haven't yet, we also have another show, Bombad Gaming, every Wednesday. We're actually covering the Mass Effect series. Me, Alden, and Michael. This is not the right graphic, but still very excited. We'll be doing that again next Wednesday, leading up to the release of Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda. So that's Bombad Gaming. Yeah, super stoked. Next Thursday, though, I don't know if any of you know this, but next Thursday is May the 4th, which is like Star Wars Day. Really, really cute title, right? And this is not a bit. I've been every time I show this, it's a real preface for what's happening next Thursday. We're recording with the legendary PSA icon, McGruff the Crime Dog, on Monday. That's right. We have I still can't believe I can say this. We have McGruff the Crime Dog as our guest for May the 4th, an anthropomorphic crime fighting canine. So just relish in the moment. Of course, you can follow the Bombadcast at all of our social sites, the Bombadcast, that the _ Bombadcast, at Bombadcast, and at the Bombadcast. Super excited. It's gonna be a fun night. Let's not forget about this real quick. Let's think about how important this is. And all that being said, we're going to bring in my wonderful co-host. Yes, the co-host with the most. And wait, before I do that, we have patrons. Look at this. We have patrons. They support us every month. Trevor, Richie, Preston, Buck, Alden, who's like a guest on the show. David, Trey, Wesley, Chase, Neil, Todd, Brian, M, Michael, Brian, Jeff, Jared, another guest on the show. Trivia Loser. Jarod is, not Seth. Seth Parnell, Sean, Rick, Joe, Brandon Schrader, Andy, Will, Scotty Holiday, and this could be you. Let us not forget. And as always, stay Bombad. Let's bring in my wonderful, wonderful co-host. I'm referring to the man with the most. The movie that we're discussing tonight actually coined his nickname for the longest time in very early Bombadcast days. The Ewok himself, Jerry, the Canon Junkie Cable. Jerry.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, listen, it kind of seems like you were threatening our patrons there at the end when you said this could be you, and you put up the picture of Cookie Cop eating a hammer. So I just, I just want to say, like, look, we love our patrons and everything, and I just, we listen, the trivia losers and all, we love you all,
we love you.
We do. That's why Scotty defeated the
twice over.
The Cookie Cop twice over. Twice over.
Shout out to Bombad Daniel. Just shout out.
Bombad Daniel. Got to give it up to him. You know what? Let's not let
shout out to Eli. We're just super excited to have our guest here. We're talking about one of our favorite movies.
It's great.
And if you haven't seen it yet, here it is. Alden Diaz.
If you haven't seen Return of the Jedi, what the hell are you doing here? But no, you should go to a local theater and check it out tomorrow. But if you haven't seen our lovely graphic there, let's go ahead and bring those lovely boys in. You're ready for
I want to bring in the person that specifically said they wanted to be brought out to a certain video. The wonderful, I guess, Weaver of the Tapestry himself. You know who that is. Weaver?
Tapestry.
Who invited you here?
Who invited you?
Look at that.
That's a whole glass.
Of course, it's a whole glass.
That
shit.
Listen. You might get altitude sickness from the height of that glass of wine. That's all I'm saying.
A little less than half.
Listen, I missed the wine memo.
Look at all his glass.
Oh, that's nice.
Listen, I guess I'm just gonna have to drink this.
Return of the Jedi Roosevelt's on there. It's a good time. That's a really good time.
Yeah, Scotty and I are wearing our Return of the Jedi style apparel as well.
Yeah.
Stylized.
Alden,
I'm glad to have you here. Return of the Jedi type.
Right? That's right.
I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, sweet.
Whoa! Thank you for having us.
Alden, I'm thrilled to talk about this movie with you. We didn't have Alden for the Bombad build-up. I just realized that became friends with Alden after our big series of building up to the Rise of Skywalker. So here we are. We can actually really fixate in this movie. And just a warning for anyone watching, we actually discussed beforehand that this conversation may be a long conversation. I'm not thinking about 4 hours. I'm not thinking 3. Hopefully around 2, but This is the one.
Long enough for your pre-downloaded copy of Jedi Survivor to be ready to play.
Long enough
It
for
literally
me
was 3.5
to
hours when I get on here.
long enough for me to slip into a depressive episode like on Bombad Gaming.
I gotta get that graphic.
By the way, today's episode of Bombadcast is brought to you by BetterHelp.
By BetterHelp.
By BetterHelp.
I gotta find the BetterHelp ad read. I keep forgetting to look it up.
Yes.
Oh man.
Well, use promo code SADSAC at checkout.
Stay sad or sad Bombad. Hey, that actually rhymed. Alden, can you do a little bit of a line read for us? Can you do a line read for us?
Can I do a line read?
It's kind of impromptu, but
sure.
I want you to read this as sad as possible.
Oh, you pulled it up for me. Perfect. All right, here we go. All right. Is it madness to see the future? To see the destruction rushing toward us? To understand that there is no escape, no hope? No, I am not mad. I'm the only sane one left. And scene.
He did it. That's a quote.
Once
from
again,
Mass
promo
Effect.
code SANE1 at checkout.
By the way, that's
We'll
from
get
the
you
first
10% off your first.
That's from the first 8 minutes of Mass Effect
Yes,
before the tutorial's even over. They're dropping lines like that.
Oh man. Well, Alden, happy to have you here. We have your counterpart, another person that you tend to
Chase,
face.
leave me alone.
You tend to face in trivia. What did Chase say?
Hey, Alden, do not come. So,
do not come.
Oh God. Do not come.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come. All right, bringing in the guy that's gonna come, the legendary, the one and only trivia loser, Jarod the loser.
Wanna have you near me? I wanna have you hear me say it.
I'm gonna come.
Don't
Yes,
They
yes.
want a wanga. Anyway, how we doing?
This
everybody?
conversation about Return of the Jedi is off to a fever
We are
pitch already. I love
13
it.
minutes into this broadcast.
Do not come.
Yeah, that's
not
gonna be
come
a new bit was born. Can I
unless-
get do not comes in the chat?
Hey. Speaking of bits,
Is that what
hold
Duwanawanga
on.
means? Right?
Everyone take a knee. We gotta take a knee. You know what time it is.
Hold on.
All right.
Hold on.
Shall kneel before.
Oh, we're already doing it? Okay.
I'm kneeling on my chair because I can't get all the way down.
We're good. Thanks, boys. Let's go make sure we get it done.
That was powerful.
Part of the
Alden,
process.
I
know.
caught you being like the cowboy praying to the cross and
Yeah.
stuff right there,
Well,
like the
I have to,
cowboy church symbol.
I was delayed because there's so much to process there. Because I knew that you'd gotten that professionally made by your alternate personality, but I could not fathom hearing it live.
Oh my
I just want to call attention real quick to the chat that my dearly beloved is cutting promos on me harder than either of you have yet.
What does it say?
Nothing. She's just playing.
Do not come. Yeah.
She's playing the hits in terms of Jarod lost to Scotty and Alden.
Wow, yeah. We did. You did.
Me as well. You also lost to
Jerry,
me.
you're
I don't
not
know if you know
alone.
this.
I am drinking a peanut butter and jelly beer, so you're not the only person on
Hey,
the wine tonight.
This is a locally made lager specifically for the Tulip Time.
Well, look.
And this is brewed in Scotty's hometown. This is in a
Louisiana,
beat
that's
of beer, yeah.
Mhm. So, real quick,
Hey.
let's see who has the better conversations. The ones drinking wine, Alden, or the ones drinking beer. We'll take a vote. Will this half of the screen or the left half of the screen?
You
Who's
take
having
your
the better
white
points?
collar bullshit.
Wow.
Wait. Oh,
Back to the whole
Clink
session.
me through the void.
Okay.
Clink me through the void.
Oh, clink me through the. I don't know what that meant. Sounds like something
Clink.
Jay would
Clink
say.
me through the void.
Clink me.
Clink Me Through the Void was a song off of Jerry's Garage Band's EP.
I have
oh,
a
dude,
feature
for real.
on that.
No, that's my my 303 cover band. We
Clink
did
me
it,
through
yeah.
the void.
Good lord. Well, obviously, happy to have all of you here. I think we're going to be getting into a very passionate discussion tonight
Mhm.
about one of all of our favorite movies. And I think most modern Star Wars fans, the one that's kind of taken everything, kind of return to this movie the most because for a lot of Star Wars now, which is a really weird thing to reflect on, all of the jumping off points for pretty much every new story, live action wise, has been rooted in this movie. Like the sequel trilogy, this is what precedes it. Mandalorian, this is what precedes the Mandalorian. So here we are now, 40 years later. I know a lot of people in the actual comment section, I know Nick in particular, saw this movie. Brian Finney, Brian Fry, all saw this movie when they released in theaters, and I know Jerry was fortunate enough to see it when it was released again for the special editions. So, like, my real opening question, the thing to reflect on the most is, what does this movie mean to you? Because this is the one that I think, even as prequel kids, I think us prequel kids really gravitate towards this one the most. At least
Mhm.
that's my interpretation. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Alden, do you want to kick it off? What does this mean to you?
In the words of a character who has nothing to do with this film, Luthen Rail, everything. Like this movie is everything to me.
You
This
said it wrong.
is everything.
There we go. There we go.
You're welcome. This movie is not just my favorite Star Wars film; it's my favorite film of all time. I've seen it an obscene amount of times. I've lived with it. I've revisited certain scenes. I listened to the score. I've watched it on mute. Or conversely, I've just thrown it on just to hear it in the house. I love this film so much. It, to me, and we'll talk about this as we go, is the apotheosis of everything that Star Wars is and can be. Everything that we stand to gain right now in terms of Star Wars can be found as a seedling here, and everything that we stand to face in terms of bad discourse can be refuted here. When people say, "Oh, Star Wars should just be this," it's like, no, this film is Jabba's palace and it's Death Star 2.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
all of that. It has to be all of it, and this is the most complete, I think, outside of maybe Phantom Menace or Rebels or Mandalorian, like tonally the most complete. Like, here's everything that we're doing here, and I would also throw Visions in there now, especially after Volume 2, which I can't really talk about, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then personally, like, take it to a really heavy place right off the bat, and like no one like shed a tear. Like I've said this before 1,000 times. Like this is the film that altered the way that I approached my life and existence as somebody with one parent, as somebody whose father was like this mysterious sort of like looming figure in my life that I didn't know. And when I had sort of the childlike hope that I could bring him back in some way, and I've changed and I've grown, and there's an arc there that I don't need to waste time talking about because it's not relevant to this movie. But from Luke Vader to Han and Kylo to Din and Grogu, I feel like I'm finally in that place of like, okay, I'm in my secure sort of later place, but this was primal. I wanted to be Luke. I was in my kindergarten journal writing that, Luke and Mark Hamill were my heroes, and it's this Luke. It's the black clad Luke Skywalker that has always stuck out to me in my mind. And then for just all the trappings that it gives Star Wars as a fantasy, whether that's Ewoks or whether it's the Battle of Endor or seeing the scoundrels become the generals and all that stuff, just it speaks to you. And last, before I throw it over to Jarod, this is the pinnacle, I think, of Star Wars costuming in a lot of ways. Where like when I think of certain characters, I'm like, oh yeah, outside of maybe Phantom Menace, because that's got Padme like heaters nonstop, and clones as well. Like Endor Leia is just like everything, and there are so many scenes in this, like Endor Leia meeting Wicket, where you could pull the scene out and just be like, that's Star Wars.
Yep,
that's pure. So I love this movie. I fully plan on crying by the time I get to the bottom of this.
Well, look, it was beautifully stated because I think we all have a different relationship with this movie for that reason. On yours being a much more emotional one, rooted in your past, and what you perceived as a child watching this movie. And this is the one I will say too. I'm sure Jerry and I've talked about this before. We have the 2 different box sets, the special edition box set and the THX Faces one that the lower half of the screen's rocking, by the way. Let's see it. There it
Both of
is.
them are here.
So yeah, so that's that. I have that shirt too. I think Jerry, do you have that one too? Do we all 4 have that same shirt?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Should we put it on? Should we all put it on?
Mine needs to be. I have to dig it out of my.
Jerry's like it's in the dirty pile, man. What are you doing?
So
I gotta do laundry.
I mean, it is the best Star Wars Roosevelt. No contest. I saw this one whenever Taylor and I were lucky enough to go to the 10th anniversary Roosevelt's meetup.
Yeah,
and like the co-founder was walking around. They were all wearing shirts that weren't out yet for Sizzle, which was genius. But Roosevelt Steve, I saw this from across like the area where there was like the big brunch, and I squealed. I went,
I bet you did.
Oh my god!
That's real.
Oh, I was like, that is exactly the kind of shirt I need.
See,
and
that shirt.
I might need to get a second one.
I don't
That's
blame
how
you.
often
I
I
might
wear
too.
this one.
That shirt and that image is what's ingrained in my memory of that is the true VHS. This is not a joke. I wish I had my original copy here at my mom's house. That trilogy box set with that face on it, that VHS box is so like, whenever those black like pages would fold and you see the white lines in it, that's the one that's like folded 20 times over. So like that's the one obviously as a kid that I just was like blowing through this. Jared, what did this movie mean to you? Like, growing up and who you are now?
As a child of the prequels and as somebody whose relationship with Star Wars as a youth was largely shaped by that Star Wars The Legacy Revealed documentary that was on the History Channel all the time, which was like, I was like 11 learning about Joseph Campbell and getting obsessed with that. As much as I like to just joke about Scotty, just saying that like, a dog walking across the street is Campbellian. Because I'm a douche. But I remember always conceptualizing this movie as the grand finale. I knew there were stories that took place after it. But I think Return of the Jedi is why I have such steep finale bias. And why, for me, the ending of a story, even if it's not a fully satisfying ending, even if it's not as good as its other counterparts, I will always gravitate towards the ending in that feeling of like reaching the conclusion. It's why, like most shows, if you ask me what's my favorite episode, I will almost always say, oh yeah, the season finale of this season was probably my favorite. Oh, the series finale was my favorite. Why? Because it was the end and we got to like experience the end. It's why I think Endgame is my favorite MCU movie, or at least one of them, is because it's the end. And as grateful as I am for the sequel trilogy, as grateful as I am for the stories that take place after Return of the Jedi, Legends and canon alike, where we get to see these characters grow past their narrative pinnacle on screen, or at least at the time, it's something that I've always gravitated towards. It is it is a crystallized pure form of so many of Star Wars' greatest themes of family, of redemption, of fighting the good fight, of being prepared to lay down your life in the name of a greater cause and to protect those that you love. It runs the gamut of the forms of love as portrayed by George Lucas, between the possessive and selfish and selfless and giving forms of love. And, it blends some of Star Wars's darkest moments, being in the belly of the beast with Darth Sidious, with some of the most highfalutin adventure that is the Jabba's palace stuff. Down to even in, and apologies for the plug, the very first episode of Ionized Bastards, I literally invoke Jabba's sail barge as like the motif I was going for in an action scene.
I mean, we've talked about like how. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, no, it was just that, like, even though my character Fabian Martell is kind of like
Right.
a lunatic,
Right.
that like it was, imagine Luke on Jabba's sail barge, but
Yes.
but Luke's out of his mind.
Yeah.
Luke is kind of an imbalanced, hyper violent lunatic.
And just like everything coming from all sides, like
Yeah.
especially you being like the arena fighter in that show, like it's influenced everything that it became, like you said, it's become shorthand. Like it's immediate, like, oh, it's kind of like a Jabba's palace feel, which is like we've talked about how I strongly believe that the Jabba's palace sequence, which is what, 32 minutes, 34 minutes, something like that.
Yep.
Is the original episode of Star Wars TV.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the bedrock of the Clone Wars. It's the bedrock of Rebels. The bedrock of Mandalorian and Kenobi and all of them. It has its own 3-act structure. It throws you in and made us rest. Like you could feel someone like Tom Kane narrating, like Han Solo is still trapped in carbonite. Lando Calrissian posing as a palace guard. Like it just, in fact, I'm surprised no one's done that.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
You could even say like the first episode ends with like Luke killing the Rancor, and then next week it picks up.
Oh, if it was arcs,
like rebels held hostage.
Oh,
as Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, and Lando Calrissian are rushed to the Great Pit of Carcoon.
It would be like, despite Han Solo's offer of a triple payment, Jabba the Hutt has ordered them to, like, it's just.
Meanwhile, the Emperor has arrived at the second Death Star to oversee its construction.
Oh, and we'll talk about Moff Jarod and everything there, because he's one of my favorite Imperial Glove Shadows. But like, yeah, like everything we're doing right now. Like, this is the pinnacle of pulp Star Wars. Which, like, when you take that away, which you can take it away and still end up with amazing things like Andor. But I always call it a twinkle in the eye. There's something really beautifully fantastically innocent and warm about the pulp storytelling here. Joe Organa, you are correct. You are Joe Organa is a Pokemon now.
Speaking of pulp storytelling,
Joe
you can get storytelling. Thank you.
Oh,
I think it's gulp seminal fluid storytelling. Okay, sorry.
Do not come.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Yeah,
I gotta chill. I think Nana's watching. I'm sorry.
It's like the Beetlejuice. Like, it has to happen in threes every time.
Hi, Nana.
At the ending. Hi, Nana. You can add me on Facebook whenever you want, or maybe that was someone else. I don't know. Yeah, it's there's something that's like when Dorothy enters Oz and it's in color. Like, Return of the Jedi is that feeling.
Yes.
As a movie, like I don't ever want that to go away. That's why, like Jarod, you mentioned it, which is not a refutation of what you're saying, but like people, it's a very common belief. Like, Jedi's good, just not as good as New Hope or Empire. I'm sorry.
See, I hate that take.
You're entitled to that opinion, and you're not wrong, but you sure as hell ain't right.
Exactly.
This movie is the pinnacle of Star Wars for me. I get that it's not the case for everybody. There are people very aggressive, like all of theories fans just showed up to type Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, you're all very original. But the
high ground younglings, hello there, General Kenobi.
Yeah, it's the greatest hits. A bunch of Rogue One stands are all very upset because they think they have the better space battle and they don't. Endor is unbeaten as a space battle. This movie is everything. I mean, and this movie, I think this movie is why, Scotty, you talked about wanting to take a behind the scenes approach with this. Like, how is this movie? Does it not stand next to Phantom Menace as sort of like the entry point of like, come learn things, talk about the filmmaking, down to like we'll talk about what Luke's lightsaber means mythologically, in terms of character, but we also know you can't have a blue blade on a blue sky.
No,
and
it's not gonna
you
work.
see the way that changes, like that one thing of them realizing that gave us an iconic element of what Star Wars is. This movie's good. Man,
It's
we haven't
amazing.
let Jerry talk at all.
I love
Jerry.
Star Wars.
Jerry, I want to hear your thoughts. bud.
Jerry,
Return. Listen. I love to come in with my friends to listen to them pontificate and things like that.
I want to listen to you
if
pontificate.
If I get an idea in there here or there, that's great. But
So
no,
Jerry was working at the movie theater when this one came out.
Yeah, fuck you. No, no. Listen, no, I honestly, all the Star Wars movies had come out when I started working at the movie theater. Unfortunately, it was, I think it was the fall after, it was the late summer after Revenge of the Sith had already come out.
Okay.
So, you know, I am old.
But you did see
you're
it
not
in
lying.
'97, and you know what? Jerry's brand has
Well-
always been on point because he saw it and he was in love with Jedi Rocks. Like I that's like a big point of contention.
Well, listen, I didn't want to
we've
go
always
there
had.
first because I already
Let's do
saw
it.
the chat is against me.
Let's do it right now.
The chat is against
The
me. Hold
chat
on,
is
hold on.
wrong.
Real
The
quick,
Jedi Rocks is a bop.
Jedi
Mine-
Rocks.
Listen,
My
boys,
taste has
boys. I love
changed.
this energy.
Okay.
I love this energy. I have to real quick get in my serious. So Return of the Jedi is the Star Wars movie for, and I mean this in the best way. It is the Star Wars movie for kids.
That's right.
This is the one that you're playing on the playground. This is the one that it sparks the most imagination. I think it was honestly the one I rewatched the most back in the day, even though I am more of an Empire guy and stuff, right? I think I did rewatch this one a lot just because there's so much going on in this one. This one is the most action of all of them, you know. Everyone's going to hate me in the chat, but I went and saw them in the theater for the special edition, and this one had the most changes. And a lot of you are like, no. And I thought that was cool. I loved it. It made me love it even more. I felt even more immersed. And on that note, again, this is a film that sparks imagination. I love it dearly. It's probably the one we've all seen the most. And Jedi Rocks is a fucking bop. Okay. Listen, Dave Matthews Band in Star Wars. Hell yes, my friend. Hell yes.
Jedi Rocks.
Hell yes.
There are two. This film has both of the song controversies. So the first one, Jedi Rocks versus Lapti Neck. The second one, Yub Nub versus Victory Celebration.
Now I will die on Yub Nub. I recorded a cover of it when the pandemic happened. Yub Nub is far better.
I reveal my age and potential fake fandom.
We'll go back to that.
We'll go back to that one.
Well, I 100% want to debate that one because that's a point of contention for me, Jerry. Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard Lapti Neck.
Yes, you have.
You have. You might just not have clocked the title. Or
Dude, I did a whole video on it with Hello Greedo. That's the one where I said, did Hello Greedo? I'm sorry. Did George Lucas rip off Rick James? Because there's a part in Give It To Me Baby where he goes and then Lapti Neck is literally it's like the same exact like horn hook, and Give It To Me Baby came out first and Lapti Neck came out in 83. So like
keep talking, stand by.
Okay, just mute your mic so we won't get copyright attacked.
This man he's never a revelation.
Now, I will say
at least I've heard Lapti Neck. It's all I'll say to the chat.
In regards to how this movie makes me feel, I know I said a little bit of how I felt, but this is the one, like I said, that played the most in my VHS player. But besides that, this is the one that that is the most.
That's Give It To Me Baby. That was Give It To Me Baby. I heard exactly what you were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So just sit on that for a second.
Having not heard this before, I immediately heard that. I was like, whoa,
baby. Yep, I'm telling you. But you watch this movie for the first time, and it shows you what Star Wars can be. And I know that sounds really weird, but A New Hope is so hero's journey. We've seen this 1,000 times. It's mythic. It's, everything that we interpret and love about, Campbell's monomyth and the power of the myth. But then you get Empire, which is the downfall and how things can go wrong. This one just starts on such a weird, bizarre note, and then it continues to be weird and bizarre. But at no point is it self-referential. Is it really? I mean, it's campy. At no point is it like, you shouldn't take me seriously. But that's the whole point. It's a movie still. It's still an 80s movie. You can take it seriously, but you don't have to. And I think it's perfect for kids, like Jerry said, because it has creatures. It's got space scene. It's got the classic.
This is the reason I'm a creature guy. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
I think for everybody. And I think that it's the difference between being for kids as a knock or all ages as a positive. This is an all ages family.
It's all ages. Yeah.
This is a family classic.
Exactly.
And it makes me think of in the Mandalorian Gallery season 1, there's that quote I love from Taika when they're talking about their favorite moments from the OT and growing up on it. And Taika says about all of Star Wars, quote, "It doesn't take itself 100% seriously, but it does believe in itself." And that has and whenever somebody's like, "I didn't like Love and Thunder, he shouldn't do it," get over yourself. All right, you would be lucky.
That's right.
Listen to the episode Alden did with Joe Scrimshaw about how Love and Thunder is a great Star Wars movie.
Love and Thunder is a Star Wars movie.
But I will say with the whole like
I'm gonna do that.
with the whole Jedi versus Hope and Empire, I think that I think the 3 movies of the original trilogy kind of like fall into like the main like guideline-y kind of classifications for Star Wars. I think A New Hope is your like fun space opera adventure that's like, it's not quite science fiction because there's some fantasy stuff in there.
Yeah.
But like it's a fun space opera. Empire, not unlike Andor, save for Luke and the Dagobah stuff, is very sci-fi. Is very ships. It's very, it is the one that, even though it is like by most people's standard the best, it is the one that is like the least a straightforward adventure.
Out of those, I mean, it's got like very like 50s sci-fi novel things, like, the concept of a city in the clouds. And things like that.
And Return of the Jedi is the fairy tale.
Oh my God. And that's, dude, literally the way you said that is the exact way all these people were saying that this is a fantasy movie. And the reason George wanted Richard Marquand is because George liked that he did really, word for word, I'll read it right here, because I listened. So we all took this movie and kind of broke down different aspects of it. I know some approaches are going to be from what's its impact on canon so far. Some approaches are what's its impact, for you personally. But I took more of like what's the BTS of this thing? And literally word for word says right here that George liked Marquand because of his skill at building mood, suspense. He was good with actors and he loved fantasy. That's it. He loved fantasy.
And this is the fairy tale of the original trilogy.
It is.
This is 100% the fairy tale of the OT. And if you look, again, this is very much a guideline. It's not a hard and fast rule because there's a lot of current Star Wars that can kind of fall into any of these. Like, if you kind of look across the board, space opera, straight sci-fi, fairy tale in space are like the 3 main subgenres of Star Wars for the most part. And the OT kind of laid that groundwork. And I think that's why this one in our mind is the one that can be the most for kids. But like, I know I gravitate towards this of the OT the most because it is the most mythological fantasy feeling one. I get something out of Jedi with Luke and Vader's conflict. That I cannot get out of Empire. As much as I love the fight on Cloud City, as much as I just love watching a blue lightsaber smash up against a red one.
Because the emotionality is entirely different, right? Like the emotional stakes are the difference
the
that
heart
year
is in
makes.
this one.
Yeah, for that one, that has to be the failure. That has to be the classic Act 2. Whereas this, Return of the Jedi, right off the bat, I mean, in the title Return of the Jedi, Star Wars does this all the time. The titles mean 2 to 6 different things depending on which installment you're looking at. Return of the Jedi is 4. I was talking about this the other day off air. Like, Return of the Jedi, immediately right off the bat, easiest definition is Return of the Jedi, the concept, the order, the way of life. They're back. Now they're back. Return of the Jedi, Luke. It's been a year since his defeat. He lost his hand.
Baby.
He was shook. He's returned in terms of the monomyth, a man. He's returned fully realized with one final test to crack. It's his return. It's the return of Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi that's hung over the events thus far, who we now get his name in this, which we take for granted. But imagine being a kid in '83 and that line.
Anakin Skywalker, my father.
Well, first of all, what the fuck is Anakin? Like, imagine in '83 being like, we got names like Luke and Ben. You're Anakin? What is
Anakin.
that?
What the
so it's
hell
amazing.
is that?
And then the fourth one, which I've come to really love, is that at the time, you mentioned Joseph Scrimshaw from Force Center, he makes a great point where it's like being a kid of the 80s, he didn't and no one did, because there wasn't even a Zahn trilogy until 91, I think. And so it's like there was all that time where the Jedi as this thing that were gone, that was gone as a concept, was undefined. And so a lot of people just assumed they were kind of wandering nomadic knights. No one knew that they were in with big government and had a big building in the center of a city. Like, no one knew that. So when you talk about the Return of the Jedi in terms of what people with this trilogy knew of the Jedi Order, it's a group that, with all the facts that we have, included Obi-Wan Kenobi, Master Yoda, and Anakin Skywalker. And this one ends with the return of the Jedi.
Yep.
As a group, as these men that knew each other.
Yep.
In whatever regard they did. We don't know those stories right now. Luke and Leia don't know those stories. But once he has all the facts and he sat on it between Empire and Jedi, and it's like, okay, he was my father. Obi-Wan was speaking in some very loose metaphor for killing him and all that. Like, but at a time, it was these guys and whatever that was. And I wish that I could have the experience sometimes of being an 80s kid and imagining what were the adventures of Ben, Yoda, and Anakin like. Like, wow. Like, maybe they were a trio. Maybe they'll get a 7-season show or something. That'd be cool. But no, it's a phenomenally layered thing. And I'm just gonna say Empire Strikes Back, only one meaning. So
see, and that's kind of the, I guess, for me personally, when I sit down with this movie, it really does feel like I'm back to my childhood again. And not just like with the sense of being able to identify everything that's came before and after it. Because now we have that. And that's fantastic. That makes this movie all the better. And it always has been good to me. But like, there's just certain moments in this movie that really have always echoed throughout my life. And I don't know, I think, and I wrote this to y'all in the little show notes, but how do you think this movie perfected Star Wars? Because I think this is where Star Wars really got its legs in terms of what we can do and how we can do it. Because like Alden said earlier, the first 34 minutes of this movie is literally an episode of The Mandalorian. It is. It is just like, you could cut that thing up, like I said, the two parts into one whole part and like just really go to town with it, because that's all it is. It tells you that story. It reunites you with those characters. It's something no other movie has done to me, where you have all the heroes together. I know Tross tried to do it, but this one felt so much more organic with like, we're going to put everyone in a situation. And of course the infamous, like, what's the plan in this whole movie? You know, what's the plan to get the hell, get the Han the hell out of here? But like how it all falls together is just like, I think it's brilliant. I think
sorry, you finish what you were saying.
No, I was going to say this.
Your question.
This is, to me, it just perfected Star Wars. It shows that Star Wars at this point can be anything. Like if you were a kid watching this, I get you leaving this movie, and I know we'll pull up a clip from Dave Filoni later. You'll leave this movie just like, wow, like this had everything in it. But like as an adult, I know Favreau said he was 18 when he watched this movie, and he didn't like the Ewoks. So like it kind of did what Star Wars has done since, where it's like not being divisive, but having different, I guess, areas.
It's confident. It's confident.
Yes.
It doesn't care that
Yes.
it knows. It never betrays the 12-year-old in favor of the cynical 18-year-old.
No.
The 18-year-old it'll come around.
Yeah. That's why I don't like Andor. I'm just kidding.
There was a little bit of truth in that. There was a little bit of drunk truth in that, though. I felt it.
There's a lot of bit of buzzed agreements with Scotty there.
Please, Jared, go ahead. I know you had something.
Well, no, I think that like the way that Return of the Jedi kind of perfects Star Wars is you look at so much of like ancillary Star Wars storytelling. Like Return of the Jedi is what cements the archetypal Jedi arc, the archetypal scoundrel turned like not piece of shit arc, the archetypal Darksider turns back to the light. Like so much of like Star Wars's DNA, so many of the other Star Wars stories that bite off of the original, pardon my hiccups, trilogy.
Yeah.
Like it can't function without Return of the Jedi. The archetype of fallen Jedi falls to the dark side, becomes Sith, becomes Jedi again in the name of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, how many you want to list off? Kylo, Revan, Ulic Keldroma, like, you know.
You said Revan.
I know. Revan confirmed. Revan canon. Revan in Return of the Jedi cameo confirmed. But like, you have that one there. Name every single goddamn scoundrel. You know,
right.
like,
Massage,
so
you've got people
yeah.
that are, you know, even that brush up against it. Like, who would have thought that by the end of Maul's arc that he would be lovingly held by Obi-Wan?
Yep.
Begging for the chosen one. Like,
yeah,
there's always a lightness, and that starts here.
And so, like, so much of that DNA is here, you know, and so much of the storytelling like hinges on Jedi. You know, you guys brought it up earlier. Every single TV show that we have right now, the live action ones, save for Andor and Kenobi, like, are super rooted in Jedi. And even Andor and Kenobi, like, the crux of those shows is a dramatic irony that we know how this story ends.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I talked about this on Knights of the Nerd Republic with Andor. The funniest thing about Cassian Andor's character is that nobody realizes how correct Cyril Karn is. Nobody realizes that Cassian Andor, this one guy, this one kind of scummy, vagrant piece of shit, is going to knock over a domino that will lead to the death of Darth Sidious twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dead.
Extra dead. He gets double killed. And then with Obi-Wan, like, we have that heartbreaking that my friend is truly dead. Goodbye, Darth.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know, Luke has the same moment. Not really. I'm sorry. Luke has the opposite moment. Luke has my father's still in there.
My
like,
father's
how cool
still
is
in
that?
there. Like, but we get all of that paid off all the way down into Jedi. Like, so much of Star Wars, be it prequel era, original trilogy era, sequel era, and anything in between or outside of that box, hinges on Return of the Jedi.
It has
hinges on the knowledge that good will defeat evil, and that there's always time to turn back, and there is nothing more important than the family that you gained along the way. All of Star Wars hinges on that final conceit at the end, where you're drumming on fucking stormtrooper helmets and doing cartwheels while there's fireworks going off.
That's the greatest. And just to build on that there's always time to make that choice to be better. And oftentimes in the Star Wars, usually it's through the nonviolent means. It's through throwing your saber down. Like, in an 80s cinema landscape that was full of John McClane's and Ripley's, and you got to kill the fucking alien, and you got to destroy Hans Gruber and bring them all down and everything. You built up 2 films, and the kids were waiting 3 years in between each one with no internet fandom to hold them over. 6 years of living with Luke, and then he throws it down. And in that moment, it's like, we take it for granted again because we know it so well. It's part of our DNA. But the synthesis that happens of New Hope and Empire here is why you had to answer your question. How did it perfect it? By being all of it. New Hope is remembered for, you know, the cantina and the Jawas and these droids I don't know yet and what's going on with them. And the droid has to take a bath. Okay. And this droid's got like an attitude problem. Okay. What's going on there? And then
in the music
going, and in the music, and Chewbacca is like, he's playing chess with like,
that's all my grandma remembers.
And then
all
Trench Run and blows up the Death Star.
That's
all my grandma.
And then Empire is Yoda.
The gravitas and the darkness and only what you take with you and everything. And then Return of the Jedi is, what if we didn't have to choose? What if it could be all of those things? What if we went weirder than we did here and more opera than we did here and just cranked it up to 11? And so, you know, when you have something like the Mandalorian finale, which of course the season was controversial and a little bit more polarizing than seasons 1 and 2, and that's fine. But specifically, when you get to the finale and you have Grogu running on the light fixtures, dodging Praetorian guards, and people say that's silly, I'm sorry, it's not sillier than anything in Return of the Jedi. You just forgot how to process it.
That's amazing.
Like, you know, building on what we said about the 12-year-old versus the 18-year-old, I'll again once cite one of my good friends and mentors, Ken. The quote that I love from Ken Knapsack is Star Wars is best understood by adults, but best loved by children.
That's right.
And I feel like Return of the Jedi is the thing that like you go back to, and Jared and I did a whole episode called this, to renew your vows with Star Wars. Like when you're like, it's getting to me, you know, people's shitty opinions and the infighting and just the back and forth of clickbait. It's like, I feel like going to watch this is like rejuvenating. Like this film just has everything, and it has moments that you wouldn't now they wouldn't put in a big finale. Like I think a lot about Luke going back to see Yoda, and that apology that Mark Hamill has, where he's like, "I'm sorry," like it's just so soft. And Kelly Knox posting that wide frame, I guess from like a magazine that shows that Mark was holding the puppet's hand.
Yes,
like during the scene, you can't see it in the film.
Oh man,
yes, you didn't know
Jared,
that,
you have to go look, Jared. Jared, you have to
look at him. He's
Jared.
I'm crying right now. You're fucking with me.
Jared,
now, wait.
I'm gonna find.
Oh my god.
You know, we talked about how supplemental content makes that scene better,
man.
or it makes Return of the Jedi
that
better.
just hit me like a freight train. I was not prepared for that. Oh,
So
Eli, I hope you're watching. I don't hate Yoda as much as I pretend to. Okay, holy shit! Like fuck Yoda, but good god.
So actually, this speaks well to that, Alden. We have now gotten so much supplemental material about this one movie that it does add more gravitas to the moments that happen in it. For example, we know the robe or the blanket that Yoda died in was Qui-Gon's robes. Like that is just. And if you
that adds honestly more to that makes me sad. Like not like it's just like I missed my
I've
my
known
friend
that for long enough that
cut
it doesn't
away.
bug me. Like the Luke holding the hand. Okay, how recently did she post
scroll
this?
back through Kelly's retweets. Actually, no, her tweets, her regular tweets. She posted it.
Okay, I'm going through media.
Yeah.
Oh god, look at this.
It's a lot, though.
Haven't
I was
seen
gonna say
Jared's
this.
faces since last
The
week.
chat is so horny right
It's
now.
ridiculous.
So we're trying to talk about people crying with their masters, and the chat's like sit on my face and being weird.
Yeah.
2% want Yoda to sit on their face. Right?
Alden, I do love the fact that you bring that up because you know a lot of this movie has, and this is something that even Carrie Fisher said. I'll pull the quote up right here. So listen to the commentary, and she goes, "This is one of the few Star Wars movies that has some of the most quiet scenes in all of Star Wars." And she's talking about the scene between her and Wicket. And then obviously I'm sure she's referring to other scenes, but like think about like I can name 5 on the top of my head instantly where other Star Wars movies, of course they have their quiet moments, but like I mean truly silent moments. You've got the moments between Yoda and Luke. You've got the moments between Wicket and Leia. You've got Leia and Luke, you know, with the infamous Jerry Cable line that he hates so much. Turn him back to the good side.
But I just say that is a worse line than Palpatine return as somehow Palpatine return.
So then you've got the moment where Vader, you know, I want to see you with my own eyes. Like you've got so many slow, quiet moments mixed with like the most ridiculous creatures. And look, I wanted to pull this up because we're here, but I'm going to pull it up on my screen. It might look crazy for a second, but you can see the creature design was such a huge part of this movie. So I got J.W. Rinsler's Return of the Jedi book pulled up right here. And this is all just for Jabba, right? So like
Morgan.
You could just, it's Morgan. You can just see like how much of this movie was supposed to be creature based. And I'm not kidding. In the commentary, there was Lawrence Kasdan was saying there was so much concept art already made before this movie was even written. Like a frame of this movie was written. So like, you know, George had ideas like here's early Ewok sketches, you know, like rebel suits, rebel gear, just the way the Ewoks looked and functioned. Like this is so wild to see what this movie,
and they did it all on less money. They had a budget cut from Empire to Jedi.
Yeah.
And Marquand only directed TV at this point too, which is really cool to think about because, another thing that George said that kind of blew my mind. Okay. I never heard this quote from George before. This should be in a book because this speaks to the sequel trilogy to me. George always wanted a new director of photography, editor for every director who works on Star Wars. Everyone. He wanted a new one for each one to see everyone's interpretations of it. Which is weird because the prequels, George worked on all 3. and he had the same DOP and the same editor for each one of those movies.
Yeah.
And it's weird. The sequel trilogies come out.
Are you saying
and
that George declared something and then didn't do
and
it?
then took it back?
Well,
What?
from a certain point of view, another thing we get from Return of the Jedi
Yes.
That's true.
was he saying each new director gets a new one?
Yeah,
Or was
and
he
therefore
saying,
I'm back and I could do whatever I want.
or
'cause
was
I'm
he
not
saying,
you.
since I'm directing all three, I will use the same three?
Sure.
Or was he saying
Sure.
every time there's a new movie, there's a new everything? Or was he saying every new director?
Every
you
new
gotta press
director
shuffle?
brings the new person in. But what's really cool
Oh, there
is,
you
and
go.
I never heard this quote before, and I'm surprised this is not, as big as all of the other ones are. But Richard Marquand, apparently, obviously he was director. We know he kind of had a little bit of a, George, backseat directing. But apparently George even admits in this commentary, he goes, I let Richard be in charge of all the character moments. I let him be in charge of all the actor moments, all the real fantastical moments. But I was in charge of all the technology directing. And I'm like, oh, I never heard that stated before.
Makes
And he
sense.
says that, I paraphrase a little bit, but I mean, because every time Richard would be like, how are we going to work the shot out? George would literally go, don't worry about it. ILM can figure it out. And he would just instill that confidence. So, some of the best character moments, literally, I know Empire has its moments. I know A New Hope's even probably the more campy of them all. But Return of the Jedi's one-on-one character moments to me are the best in the whole series.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Oh my
man.
God,
Like,
just
what
the
we
way
just
they're
talked
shot
about
too.
What we talked about with Yoda and Luke. I mean, the revelation of Luke and Leia as siblings when he tells her in the Ewok village, and then Han coming in and Harrison doing that, almost walks away from her and then can't do it. And it has in a lot of ways the genesis of the people hate it now because they call it Marvel humor because they don't understand how humor gets passed down. But it started here.
No, it's movie, popular movie.
Yeah, it's Marvel humor. It's quips. There was never quips before it. Even though, okay, whatever. I'm trying to have a good time. But
They
just
fly now.
the whole idea of
I'm about to get started
of doing the I love you, I know, in Empire, and then doing it again flipped in Jedi. We take that stuff for granted now because movies reference lines here. When she does the I know, ooh, God, Lord, it's so
Lord
good.
Oh, it's amazing.
The chemistry is dynamite. God. Oh, and it's another great moment. 3PO. Nowadays, it would be ripped as being self-referential and masturbatory and blah, blah, blah. But when 3PO basically tells the story of New Hope and Empire, it's adorable.
Well, that's actually a really fun payoff because Taylor and I decided we were going to watch A New Hope tonight, watch Empire Strikes Back tomorrow, and then after we finish Empire, go see Jedi. Because we're seeing Jedi tomorrow night. Yeah. And we were watching it, and with Jedi on the mind, we whenever Luke is talking to R2 and 3PO right before he sees the message from Leia, 3PO Luke's like, "You guys are with the rebellion against the Empire?" And 3PO goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Master Luke. I'm not very good at telling stories." And it's 2 movies later, Unfogush, woo! It's I love Star Wars.
Good. Yep. Anthony Daniels is wonderful.
Well, and also just talking about character moments, man. Oh, you go, Jerry.
I just hate that he left. I was just gonna say I hate that he left out Crimson Dawn though. I just think I just really want.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't talk about it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, you didn't talk about Luke's yellow lightsaber era either.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
It's like they don't care. It's like they don't care.
Lady Kira, the Grogush.
That's funny.
Please continue.
Well, we're talking about like one-on-one character moments. We always talk about between the stunt team on Mando, with the bodies of Din and Pedro and the directors finding a way to bring life to this character whose face you can't see. There is a solid 30 seconds of silent contemplation from Darth motherfucking Vader. That is one of the heaviest moments in this movie of him just gazing into the forest.
Oh, no.
Oh,
well, he's talking about the forest. He's not talking about the change. He's not talking about
Okay. Well, when we get to the change, which is very important, there's
I
an
love it.
incredible.
I'm just gonna say it now. I love the no. I love the no. I
Me
love
too, I
the
do like it.
defiance.
Hell
Hold on,
yes!
hold on,
I
hold on,
love-
hold on.
Hell yes!
I love
Hold on, we're getting
Vader.
excited.
Hell
I
yes!
love Vader's defiance, and it.
I'm the odd man out. I don't want it.
We
So
just
we're gonna get to that scene.
Okay.
But the reason I wanted to stop Jared is there is a George Lucas, like, that whole ending thing. I've never heard this commentary isolated before, but there's a George, like, literally like a 10-line thing he says about that scene that is just like I'm watching the commentary like 30-40 minutes ago, and I'm like, no, I had never heard this thought before. But I agree, man. Like,
Does this get into the conversation you, me, and Jerry had a couple weeks ago in the car?
which one? Which
The
one?
lightsaber thing?
Oh, well,
Which
if we
I
want
really want to talk
there-
about because I want to hear Alden's thoughts.
I guess we could. Look at this. Joseph Macri. What is happening? I'm so confused.
You sound like Mike Doling.
What the hell? No, okay. I'm trying to think of where I want to
those
go with
song
this.
lyrics.
Ride
I
the
don't
eyes
know.
of the dragon and then tell me who you think you are.
So,
Wow.
real quick, one thing I will say about this movie's ability to fantasize and wow you in terms of like just a straight up sci-fi movie. The one really cool part about this commentary that I never fixated on was the fact that the Rancor was, and this is from the source itself, from Phil Tippett, from Dennis Muren, they describe the Rancor as being the last of the Harryhausen monsters. And like, yes, I agree. And I never put that into perspective. And look at, so here's some concept art of the actual Rancor before. And I'm like, this
He
is
looks stupid.
I know but like, I can't zoom in for some stupid reason on this software, but like, there was some insane looking designs. Like, it was a fire Rancor. Just, oh my God. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because, as much as we applaud this movie for it being thematically rich, technically rich is like so understated. And they said in the commentary, which blew my mind, they said that every person who worked on staff for this movie knew the objective for this movie. They knew what the end goal was going to be. Unlike there was parts in Empire where they had to figure stuff out. Unlike other scenes in other Star Wars flicks where they had to figure stuff out. Apparently every facet of the studio, the ILM side, the creature side, the music side, the sound effect side, all knew exactly what the end goal was. And that blew my mind hearing that, because they knew what they wanted to do was top the two movies that came before. And I think technologically they did. Like the Battle of Endor, y'all. I mean, that still holds up.
There are shots in there. Nikki and I talk about it all the time. There are shots in the Battle of Endor, particularly skimming along the surface past all the the anti-air blasters and everything.
Yes.
Like, it's just my God. Like the ferocity, the speed, the precision, the tension that comes when they hit the core and then they have to get out before the flames hit them. Like, everything about it is just stellar. Can I say something? I don't mean to throw us off this track, but I realized something an hour and 3 minutes in. There's been an egregious topic exclusion. We haven't talked about Ian fucking McDermott's debut.
Oh no, my God.
Like, we haven't touched on him really at all. Like, we mentioned the Emperor, but like, I want to say, before we get into his performance, when we talk about Return of the Jedi overall, what it means for Star Wars, like, oh boy. So
here we go.
Before you get on a roll, I'm gonna run to the bathroom, but I'll be listening.
Please do. You are allowed to piss. So when you think about all of Star Wars and villains, what it does really, really well is that whenever you think that they're boxed in terms of what they do with their villains, they say, no, we're going over here, or no, we're going over here. So you have all the Imperials and people like Tarkin and the contrast between him and Vader, and you hear about the Emperor. So that it's like, and nothing I'm saying is like original. This is all stuff that's been said by people much more eloquently and with much more depth, particularly people that, worked on it. But the idea that his master would contrast him so much, he is this dark, shadowy, armored, big, hulking figure with no face. And then it's a shriveled up old man where you could see every delicious facial expression. He has no armor. He carries no weapon that we know of until we see his younger years. There's nothing about him that feels like a physical threat, and he's infinitely scarier. And so then you have the two of them, Then we go to Phantom Menace. It's like, what do we do that's not the two of them? Okay, we're gonna do Satan as a ninja, like, and we go completely over here, and he's completely different. Then it's like, okay, what do we do after him? Then it's like, okay, let's do a gentleman aristocrat, and then we go over here for Count Dooku. And Star Wars just keeps doing that, where they refuse to be boxed in about the types of heroes they portray.
Darth Maul looks like the Judeo-Christian Satan?
Thank you.
Stupid
Thank
asshole.
That needs to be a clip. Him yelling that, stupid asshole. But yeah, I mean, it's just Ian McDermott. I'm gonna lean back now because this is uncomfortable. But like the whole energy that he brings of just being like, he loves this level of evil and he thrives in it. But he's also almost, there's not a sadness to Palpatine. That's not the energy I'm trying to capture. But there's almost a disgust that Palpatine has with the galaxy for not being like him, because he is such a narcissist. Like, all Sith that we know in canon are about, perpetuating the Sith. There's the rule of two, one to have the power, one to crave it. It keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Palpatine is anti-Sith in a lot of ways. Like, he is the perfect one, but he's also the worst one at following their tenets, because he will try to make it just him. He wants to be the end game. He wants to be the final one. He wants to live forever. He wants to have contingencies. He wants to have this final rule. And with that narcissism of being the pinnacle of evil, of the dark side, and of thinking that he understands both, as he says in Revenge of the Sith, that he understands the great mystery, that he gets all of it. He has a contempt for people that don't get it, a frustration. And that's why, lines that I love are like, you have paid the price for your lack of vision. Like, he really is like disappointed in Luke, and there's almost like a loneliness to him. Like, it's a really compelling, full portrayal of a morally bankrupt devil for this galaxy and for this family. And yeah, it's just everything that he says and he does. Like, it's you paid the price for your lack of vision is probably one of my favorites. That, my top two are that and young fool, only now at the end do you understand. Like, again, because he is the height of hubris. He fully believes he has it. That's my Palpatine rant.
I love that you let's see here. We're actually waiting for Scotty to come back here. So
well, hello.
So,
welcome to the Bombadcast.
Yes.
Fancy meeting you here.
Alden hour.
Ooh.
But we something is going on there.
Hear the cat about to play.
Yeah, Richard very much wants to be a part of this conversation now too.
Hello, Richard.
He's screaming.
Scotty got up, so we're stuck on a single right now. So,
well, I agree with everything you said about Sidious and the lineage of Star Wars villains. And again, I think this goes back into the greater conversation we were having about how Return of the Jedi is so integral to the DNA of Star Wars, arguably just as much, if more so, than Hope and Empire. But to talk about like the poetry, that's my favorite George Lucas quote. Star Wars is like poetry; it rhymes, and I love I love both the beauty and uplifting nature, and also the tragedy that is the way that things rhyme. Oh, Kelly, that's such a banger Sidious line as well.
That's a good line.
Like, your father.
Ooh. Can I say something about?
I
can I say something real quick while Kelly's in the chat?
Please.
I just want to say, because Kelly showed up. Kelly, first of all, I'm sorry that after eons of a beautiful friendship, we disagree about Jedi Rocks. But secondly, when I had Kelly on Octa Radio for the first time, Kelly very casually informed me that they have a twin sister, and I did the twin sister line. The sister, so like, and no one had ever done it. At least Kelly, right? Like, you told me, like,
who's dragging their feet in Kelly's life? I think Kelly joined because I saw that she liked my tweet about how because of this episode, I was informed of what you tweeted of Luke holding Yoda's hand at the end, and I burst into tears.
Jarod lost it on stream, so
that was uncontrollable tears.
Look, I just can't believe that. All I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to be up in Kelly's life, although Kelly, you're the GOAT. the
For
fact
real,
that
real.
you could grow up loving Star Wars and have a twin, especially a twin sister, and no one says that to you, that's a failure of everyone around you.
I agree.
That's a societal
I
failure.
concur.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking
absolutely.
about that line reading though that Kelly brought up. You like your father are now mine. I mean, that's the one that Filoni says horrified him as a child.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
somebody could ruin your parents?
Well, it's that. It is that and the way that it ties into the line I wanted to talk about is the "so be it" Jedi. Is that even though like Sidious at this is at the peak of his hubris and his arrogance, and is at the point where not only for like now as far as we know within the canon now,
Yeah.
you know, how many times are we up to where the Emperor just straight up tries to kill Vader?
Yes.
The Emperor's just
Like,
straight up, you know what?
it's like
I'm
a
fucking
weekly
tired of
meeting.
you know, and just hits him.
Or
you
he'll be
know?
like, hey, Big V, meet me in the mess hall in 5. I gotta talk to you about something. And then he shows up and there's like 8 cyborgs.
Yeah, he shows
that
up
are
and it's
ready
hands. Like,
just
like
to
it's
meet.
Snacks him with
Tuesday. I
with a
want lunch,
fucking
and it's
tray,
hands.
You know, like,
And but
no,
but
but all
Sidious
the-
is so just one
ahead,
second
go ahead.
before I lose it here. Is that like you have the "so be it" Jedi, like your father, you are mine. It is this peak of hubris and that level of I can't lose that like ties so beautifully like the third chapter in each trilogy together. And namely the big connective tissue here is we're watching Luke and Vader do the same dance that Anakin and Dooku did at the end of the war. Only this time, like Sidious, it's almost like Sidious looked at Dooku before Obi-Wan and Anakin walked into that room on the invisible hand and went, I'm gonna make him kill you. Like, it's like that is the level of confidence Sidious has here. Where even if Luke doesn't take the fall, doesn't give himself over to the dark side, he throws the lightsaber away. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi like my father before me. So be it, Jedi. Your father's gonna serve me still. I just got to replace his hand. Die.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a no lose scenario for him at this point. Like, what is one? There's a line in Game of Thrones that is about Renly Baratheon, but it's on a meta level. It's about Jon Snow if you're paying attention, and it's what is the life of one bastard boy against a kingdom? And Davos
Yeah.
says everything, and it's like to Palpatine, this is a guy who, if we were by the formalities of the system in the Republic, wouldn't have made it. Really, he's still like Padawan, like really realistically. He's probably
high Padawan, low
like
knight.
Luke at this point is Obi and Phantom Menace, in terms of like where
Yeah.
he's at, kind of like he's in that ballpark. And Palpatine's like, dude, I took out 10,000 of you in a day, like, and so it's like it is all about like evil and fascism are confident. These are things that Nemec gets into, in Andor, and the way that plays in terms of the metaphor of like they can have every tool. They can have a bigger Death Star under construction. They can have the shield bunker. They can have all the walkers. They can have their boot on every world. But then their overconfidence, as Luke says, is their weakness. All we need is Han Solo to step on a twig, that kicks off a chain of events, which means we met the little things that you disregarded, the indigenous people that were already there that you disregarded. And that's why you're going to lose. It's why you're destined to lose. And, I don't want to, a whole other episode could be done on why Rise is not a repeat of Jedi and why I'll fight anyone in the streets for saying that it is. But this is a necessary, like Yavin, Endor, and then a huge ass run to Exegol are like the 3-act play of stamping this shit out.
Yeah. Well, I would even go so far as to say I fully agree with you that Rise is not a rehash of Jedi, but I love, like I said, like while Scotty was gone, like there is a beautiful interconnectivity between the final chapter of each.
Yeah.
That like there is I love the story of revenge to return to rise.
I love it too. It makes me so happy. It's a lot better than begins Night Rises. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It works a hell of a lot better than that. I love Revenge Return Rise. It makes me so happy, intentional or not. It's great.
It's
Sorry,
fantastic.
I was gone
it's so
for
beautiful.
so long, by the way. Once Alden started talking about Ian McDermott, I went to go grab a sparkling water. Then the two cats we have in this house started fist fighting, and it was like the typical cat, like
because they heard Jarod.
I don't know what it was, but literally so I had to go break up a literal cat fight. They're like, and I'm like, oh fuck, and I'm like doing this all off air. So I kind of came back flustered. I'm apologize.
Here's what makes that funnier.
Fight some pussy.
There was going to be a third pussy in there because Richard was screaming outside my door.
There we go.
Yeah,
Richard was like, I want hands, let me in. I want paws.
Hold on. Breaking news for Boop. Bam Margera has been found in the
Really? Bam Margera has been found. Was he gone?
He like ran into the woods or something. Boop, any update on Jean-Benet Ramsey?
Really? Do we? Yeah. We're still waiting.
Somehow Jean-Benet Ramsey returned.
Was it the parents? Was it? Yeah.
That was a joke for exactly the people on screen, Boop, and I don't know, maybe 2 people watching.
Maybe a couple of the people. Real quick, I was to say Alden brought up an interesting point about Palpatine that I never really thought before. The way that he is almost disappointed, you say, whenever he tells Luke. What was the line that you pulled when you're saying that he almost seems disappointed? Yeah. I never quite thought of it from that perspective because he seems like you're saying, like he wants to be himself, but like he is looking for his equal, almost.
And I think Palpatine, there's a
find it.
There's a
so
narcissistic loneliness to him, a disgusting, perverse sort of like it's kind of like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when Ego's like, I will not be alone. And it's like you will genocide worlds out of this thing that is unattainable because of your opinion of yourself. You got to keep in mind, had Anakin won on Mustafar, we might not have gotten to this point, but Anakin will always be the ultimate investment that came as a damaged return.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly. Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when I love my versus stuff and people love to talk about, Anakin and his full potential, we don't know what that looks like. We do not know what that looks like. And honestly, for good reason, because who knows what his zenith would be had he committed to like the training and the effort mixed with just his raw potential. And I absolutely love that idea. He looks at Luke as like, you're my white whale. Mm-hmm. You're my all-powerful Skywalker. You may as well be this guy. You're just not burnt to a crisp.
You're healthy.
Yeah.
You're on top of your game, and you've already
vivacious.
Yeah.
your skin isn't up there. Your lungs aren't the color of charcoal. Please join my team so I can put the robot out to pasture. Absolutely.
Dumb, full of midichlorians. It's great.
It's incredible. Yeah.
See, whenever it comes to this movie, obviously I missed a good chunk of the conversation because I was breaking up some cat brawls. But I'm curious if y'all had gotten. Is there a topic that y'all want to cover in particular from this movie? Obviously, we do want to cover the final throne room scene. Yes. Who doesn't like talking about that? But is there like any other thematic things that you really want to kind of dive into before we get into the big scene? Because I think we're going to talk about this final scene for like 50 minutes. Like I know in our guts.
So before we do that, Connor has a question in the chat via Eli. And Eli,
he sent his fucking squire to ask a question for him.
Eli tagged Bombadcast on something on Twitter he would like for you to play on stream.
Oh.
I watched it while I was getting my beer. It's fantastic.
Okay, let me see.
All right,
so you tagged us on
go for
Twitter?
That. He said it's at Bombadcast, so I know that you'll be able to get
I'm not logged into that one. Jerry is though. So Jerry, I don't know if you can pull it up on your phone. Oh God.
Here, I'll just send
it to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
where.
Scotty with a brief moment of rage.
Eli makes everything so goddamn complicated because he starts the stream, before Jerry and I's giant trivia rematch. He's like, it started it.
Jerry, pull up Eli's newest comment. It's perfect. The perfect response.
Hold on.
Is he?
That's his response to your frustration.
You mean my favorite meme, the only meme I will ever get a tattoo of?
Yee.
Yee. Makes
All
me
right,
happy.
hold on.
But no, Eli's comment that is apparently
Here
Connor's
it is.
question.
No, I got it
Oh,
pulled
okay,
up.
you got that?
Here
Hell yeah.
It's. Let me
Hold
see if
on,
it'll
hold
actually
on.
work. Okay, it says inspired by tonight's Bombadcast. Here is this
Oh
edit.
no.
Eli could have texted this to me. I could have uploaded to the stream. Here we go. Here, can y'all hear it?
Correct, Commander. And he is most
What the fuck?
displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
We shall double our efforts.
I hope so, Commander, for your sake. The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am.
Copyright infringement hit this. Now.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey,
It
let it
worked.
ride.
Let it ride.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Eli cooked.
That's pretty hot.
Eli cooked. I don't know how he reached the oven, but he cooked.
That's look. I'm just
You know,
gonna
usually they don't allow kids that young to use the oven.
this is
too,
this
so
is
it's
off
like-
topic.
His
but
easy
not
bake
'cause
oven. Sorry.
That the way that the Mandalorian ends their cold opens with the is the sexiest thing in Star Wars.
Oh, it's so good.
It's especially this last one for the return. It's loud. It's got
loud.
bass, it's got brass. Ooh.
It's
So-
my second favorite Mando intro. My favorite one is the one from The Prisoner because it's like the trap version of the Mando theme. But like
Yeah.
the return, that one's like watching a Rocky movie. That's like
Also,
when they hit that I want to fist fight somebody. Like
also, a special shout out to Book of Boba Fett: Return of the Mandalorian when they combine the themes.
bussin'.
Okay.
Oh,
Do
yes.
you wanna? Are y'all ready
Yes.
to
To
ready
answer
to-
Connor's question.
have? Oh, what was Connor's question? I'm so confused.
I know
Eli
we had
sent me a
Connor's
video.
question and then that
What was
thing
Connor's
interrupted it.
question?
It's in the
Eli
chat.
submitted
I thought they-
Connor's
wait.
question, which was
Here, Jared, go ahead.
also question from the Chiquiti Man. What do you think Return of the Jedi adds to Jedi philosophy overall, and in what ways do you think those additions are still seen throughout the current Star Wars storytelling? I could talk about this for like 40 minutes, so anybody who isn't me speak first.
Yeah, I could as well. I know you and I could. We could just casually. Yeah. This
Scotty
is,
just picked up a fucking Campbell book.
Cite the holy text.
Oh
Alden,
yeah. Where's my
get
copy
your
of it?
get your holy text out.
My copy's over there with my note from Scotty. Yeah, I mean, this defined because in New Hope and Empire, the Jedi were these mythological beings that were sort of undefined, and we get an idea of what the Force is in New Hope. In the second one, we see that it also has the telekinetic component, and we get the idea of it. There's that whole element of fear, of the responsibility. I wrote a whole thread about that one line of the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet. What that means. But then when you get to Jedi, it's that throwing down of the lightsaber. We haven't gotten to the prequels yet, where Mace says we are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. This film told us that with no dialogue. This film established that like the Jedi are not a power fantasy. The Jedi are a responsibility parable. The Jedi are a morality play. And I think that whenever you look at something like the High Republic and the concept of for light and life and the concept of protection, when you go to Galaxy's Edge, even down to the merch.
Scotty, those are books, by the way.
That's a publishing line. When the most regal looking sabers are called the protection and defense of the purity form of what the Jedi are supposed to be. Return of the Jedi, especially as Boop points out in the chat, like in a funny way, being a Force ghost give you the chance to be young and hot again. Like this film also did introduce the fact that part of the Jedi philosophy is that if we lead a life that is in line with the light side, if we give instead of take, if we open ourselves up instead of closing ourselves off, instead of choosing ignorance, if we allow ourselves to open ourselves up to even to other kinds of creatures. A great note is that the only person in Return of the Jedi that doesn't react negatively to the Ewoks is Luke, because he's already learned the don't judge a book lesson. He already learned that with Yoda. You could see it in Mark's performance. He's like, okay, these are small. I made this mistake before. I prejudged. I'm past that now.
He's
That's
even
a
laughing
Jedi.
at Han doing what he did with Yoda.
He is. That's a Jedi. it's small things like that all the way up to standing against the Empire. That's the kind of thing that allows you to live forever. And I'm not gonna say his name, Jarod, but there's a character who also got to live forever at the end of the trilogy after this, that connects to these ideas. And some people don't like the fact that he died, but like,
I agree, Alden, bringing in the idea of like, or Connor really, and you elaborating on it's beautifully said, because I have this Campbell quote that came to mind. Now, keep in mind, Campbell did not see
look at
the
these pages.
prequels.
Look at
He
these
did
pages.
not see the mark and everything.
That's highlighted from the behind the page. This is
Yes. So keep in mind, he did not see the prequels, so he doesn't know the context of this. But this is from Campbell. He's talking to Bill Moyers in The Power of the Myth. He says, the fact that the evil power is not identified with any specific nation on this earth means you've got an abstract power, which represents a principle, not a specific historical situation. The story has to do with the operation of principles, not this notion against that. The monster masks that are put on people in Star Wars represent the real monster's force in the modern world. When the mask of Darth Vader is removed, you see an unformed man, one who is not developed as a human individual. What you see is a strange, pitiful sort of undifferentiated face. And then Bill Moyers asks, what's the significance of that? And Campbell says, Darth Vader has not developed his own humanity. He's a robot. He's a bureaucrat living in terms of living not in terms of himself, but in terms of the imposed system. This is the threat to our lives that we all face today. Is the system going to flatten you out and deny your humanity? Or are you going to be able to make a use of the system to attainment of human purpose? How do you relate to the system so that you are not compulsively serving it? It doesn't help to try and change it in accord with your system of thought. The momentum of history behind it is too great for anything really significant to evolve from that kind of action. The thing to do is learn to live in your period of history as a human being. That's something else that it can be done. And I really do feel that like George's, approach to mythology is just this whole idea. And to cap it all off, Bill Moyers asked by doing what? Like, what can you do to live that way? And Campbell says, by holding to your own ideas for yourself. And like Luke Skywalker, rejecting the systems and personal claims upon you. Fuck yeah, that's what it means to be a Jedi. Don't live by the rules of the dogmatic way. Everyone, Yoda including, said you can't turn him. He's evil. The second he went against even his own Jedi principles from his masters, he achieved something that he could better than anything he could imagine. He saved his father. He saved his father so much that it literally turned him back to the light, the Return of the Jedi. And now we should watch the Dave clip because there's a better time than ever to get that.
We are what they grow beyond.
If I may, real quick.
Real quick. A couple things before that.
Yes.
With regards to Connor's question, Scotty, out of the park with the Campbell clip. Alden, as always, you're 1,000% spot on. The thing that I love about what it brings to Jedi philosophy, and for me, it's just a specific thing, is that this is the first time the Jedi truly feel aspirational to me. Beyond being a cool power set and having a laser sword, as a kid, Luke's conviction affected me. Luke goes on to Death Star 2, having accepted a number of things. One of which being, no matter what the outcome is, I'm going to die.
Yep. God, so good.
I will die on this space station. I may die fighting Vader. I may die fighting the Emperor. I may die having locked all three of us into a verbal stalemate, and someone will fire that shot that'll send this space station to hell. But he accepted he would die there, not only in the name of his convictions and his Jedi beliefs, but in the name of saving one person. And it is that heroism. It is everything from the pulpy, fun, swashbuckling nature of catching the lightsaber, kicking it on, and just mopping motherfuckers up on Jabba's sail barge, and fighting Vader in like in the belly of the beast in this like technological hellscape that is the Death Star, all the way up to you failed, kaplunk, throws the lightsaber aside.
Oh yeah,
everything everything there is him being what a Jedi is. That is the High Republic. That is what the Jedi should be. And what you were saying earlier, Scotty,
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, people are, oh, it's so messed up that Luke, like, oh, his order fails just like the last one did. Yeah, you're right. Look at his mentors.
Yep.
Yoda and Obi-Wan are great. They are the most hardcore company men of the prequel era order, and it should not shock you that they didn't understand the mistake they made that aided Anakin's fall.
Yeah,
They're not responsible for it, but they played a role. And it is their belief that Anakin that cannot be saved, that is proven wrong, and is a hallmark of Luke's great sin in allowing Ben to slip through his fingers. That he starts acting like them again. It is his act of defiance and understanding the order better than its greatest bureaucrats. And that sends shockwaves through this story 30 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, to tie that in, I'm so glad you ended it there. Scotty, what you read from Campbell and Jared, the 30 years later, when we talk about what Campbell said about letting them define you and how you have to shake that, letting these systems and these labels, that's why I love that Luke, the night that he becomes here, and Leia finding out that she too is a part of this mythos, of this magic, that she is royalty, she is a leader, she is a fighter, she can talk with the best of them, shoot with the best of them, she's all these things, but also you're fabled, you're storied, you're part of this magic thing as well. The two of them, their apprentice Rey, when she faces Palpatine in the end game, that sort of starts the domino effect here. When he's out of tricks, because he tries family, then he tries, okay, you're not going to buy the granddaughter thing. All right, well, you're master. Then he tries the turning others against her. Then he tries the, well, your friends are in danger. When he's out of all tricks, he immediately reverts, like a lot of, old white men do when they're trying to tear a young woman down, to just shaming her and labeling her. He's firing lightning and he's like, scavenger girl, like, just like he's got nothing left. And the fact that she's like, you can't tell me what I am, man. I know. And guess what? I'm gonna build the fucking saber that's gonna start the next generation because I'm the fucking scavenger. And it's gonna be really it's gonna be great. And that
Star Wars.
And that's the Jedi way. Is just being like, you can't hurt me. Like, what are you gonna that ability to just sort of be water is present in Luke as he learns more, of course, Crate being the peak of that, in Qui-Gon, in Obi-Wan, especially toward the end of his series, and Rey, then that starts the Return of the Jedi.
Of course. It's all rooted in what this movie did for Star Wars. Like it did do something, obviously, like we've been talking this entire stream, thematically, emotionally, story-wise, practicality. It did everything it could have done. And like, there's very few things in this movie that I'll go, I could do without. There's maybe not even a single scene in this movie that I could frankly say that too. And the build up from this movie into the prequels is all hinging upon this final moment. We see the turn of Vader, we know the outcome of the story, but the prequels is, how did he get to be in this place in the first place? And I want to play this clip from Dave. Now, let me get insight from y'all here. I found someone's edit of it. It's got Star Wars music underneath it. Should I just pull up the Disney Plus thing on my phone? No one can see it, just hear it. We can listen to it and talk about it. Or should we have to have a visual aid when it comes to this stuff?
I'll run it in its pure form.
I
think
I know the one you're talking about, and I get it. It's fine, but like,
so
I don't care.
Disney Plus it without the visual.
You can Disney Plus and stream, right?
I can, but
Disney Plus and stream, and don't pull it up.
I wonder if I don't. Let me try that. I'm gonna try it first.
See if it works.
But,
they can look at our handsome mugs while we listen to Dave.
Yeah, I agree.
For those that have never heard the clip, it's from the Mandalorian Gallery. I think the second episode.
Yeah,
season 1.
So I know that. Is this the Duel of the Fates clip?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it from? It's from Legacy, right? I'm pretty sure that's.
I think it's from Legacy.
Yeah,
from the
Legacy.
end of Legacy.
Yeah.
God,
the episode that made me cry.
I haven't heard
I
this
agree.
clip in a while, but I've definitely heard it before.
So here's a good story.
Made me cry.
Eric Cotterman and I were heading back from Disney World after like doing the first time at Galaxy's Edge, doing all of it, right? and we're like, and from Disney World to Louisiana, it's a solid 12-hour drive. I'm not kidding you. We put on this episode of The Gallery and just listened to this last part like 4 times over and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. It's some of my favorite memories I've had with Eric, because it was just that, like, Dave really gets it. Like, not that he never got it before, but this shit is like truly next level, like unbelievable.
Yeah, no, he I don't know. There's something fundamental about it that, again, I don't know. Dave just, it's in his DNA, like it was in George's. I don't know if it was instilled by George a little bit, or he just had that too. He had the midichlorians too.
Let's see. All right, I think I'm gonna play it. I don't think
In a movie that was about so much more than what that movie appeared to be about.
I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already
have. Fuck. Oh, make me tear up. Here we go.
Prequels, I thought, were almost an impossible task. How do you tell the story that we've all grown up with, imagining who Anakin Skywalker was? You saw so many things in Phantom Menace that you just imagined, like the Jedi Council, and none of it really was what I had expected. But I know now that that's just like how creative George is. Like, he just sees it differently, and he's laying it down. And
I love
the lightsaber.
Let me know when you want me to
Darth Maul,
pause.
Not because it's a lightsaber fight, but because George is so good at crafting why that fight's important every time. Like, the Obi-Wan.
I love how
Darth Vader
excited
fight isn't,
Bryce
like, the
gets
most
for the story.
wonderfully staged necessarily combat that you're ever going to see, but there's so much at stake. It's so meaningful when Obi-Wan dies that we all feel like Luke. In Phantom Menace, you're watching these two Jedi in their prime fight this evil villain. Maul couldn't be more obviously the villain. He's designed to look evil, and he is evil, and he just expresses that from his face all the way out through the type of lightsaber he fights with. What's at stake is really how Anakin's going to turn out, because Qui-Gon is different than the rest of the Jedi, and you get that in the movie, and Qui-Gon is fighting because he knows he's the father that Anakin needs, because Qui-Gon hasn't given up on the fact that Jedi are supposed to actually care and love, and that's not a bad thing.
Pause it
the
there.
rest of the Jedi are so detached.
Pause it there.
Pause,
Man.
pause. Scotty, the High Republic is a book series, by the way. It's very good. Actually, have a couple right back here.
Chat, let us know if we go down because we're playing this just directly from Disney Plus. But god damn,
I just like.
Oh my god!
I remember seeing that for the first time.
I'm
and
hot.
when he said he's fighting because he knows he's the father Anakin needs. Like, obviously we knew. I think that all of us grew up knowing, being able to feel the duel of fates is like, it's the fates. It's the start of the franchise. Like, how's it going to shake out? We're down a hero. Yeah. This is Obi becoming his own man. But when he put it in terms of this duel decides how Anakin turns out, it's like on that large level, like all 9 come back to this, like Anakin, because people are like, oh, Anakin not present in the sequels. It's like, that's not true. He's sort of he's the bedrock of so much of what Kylo's doing, so much of what Luke is doing, and then he speaks to Rey, bring back the balance, Rey, as I did. Yes. Like, if he was the type of man brought up by the father he needed, maybe that balance would have been unshakable.
Yeah, sure.
But it requires stewards later on, because the foundation is inherently wounded because of this. And man,
well,
fuck Dave.
Dave gets it. Dave gets it. Like, we're talking about Return of the Jedi, and we in our friend group love to joke about people whose analysis of Star Wars begins and ends with his lightsaber is red to signify that he is bad.
Did you say those people are in our friend group?
No, I say we often joke about.
Okay.
People who
I don't claim those people.
No.
Okay.
No. We often joke about the people who purport to have some deep understanding of Star Wars, and the analysis begins with red is bad, blue is good, purple is both. It's not. And Return of the Jedi is infamous for one of those classic congratulations, you noticed a motif. Type moments with Luke's flap of what's he gonna do? Is he's wearing black? Is he gonna be bad? So, here we go.
But
and
inside
then the flap opens and it's white.
Do you think that's why they did this? Do you think that's why they did this on this Roosevelt?
I wish they're all white on the inside. I wish that were the case, but that's my new head. I'm going to exclusively wear it folded like this. So you failed your highness. But no, so it makes me happy when Dave does stuff like this, where like, you know, because like I as a kid, I'm watching Star Wars Legacy Revealed, and I'm having these like big brained Pepe Sylvia. I'm like the Wojak who's like sitting on his brain. You know, that's how I felt as a kid when I was like, oh, that's what this all means. And then hearing somebody who has that reverence for the prequels explain how all of these, you know, all these ripple effects, it's just perfect. It is perfect. I think Dave's interpretation of the Jedi, like, I want to, I he's so right to the point where I disagree with him on such minutia that I'm like, oh, we're so close to having the exact same interpretation.
Yeah.
I love it.
But we'll get to this clip, obviously. They'll go into the whole entire moment of Luke and how Dave feels about the Luke stuff too. And I'll bring up a George Lucas quote momentarily that does deal like literally exactly with what the I guess the analytical Star Wars interpreters would say, like his mask is facing this way and then it faces this way like it does in Revenge of the Sith. Like I get all the poetry rhyme stuff, but like oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. But no, we'll get into that in a second. But I'm gonna let Dave talk because it had all of us tearing up.
Let the cowboy cook.
Oh my god! And you know what's cool
Let
too?
the cowboy cook.
Who he's talking to here have now gone on to pretty much do their own Star Wars. Rick.
Well, I was
has
thinking
gotten
that because like Rick got like most of the Mandalorian,
season 3.
right?
Yeah,
Rick is an executive producer now. Deborah did
Yeah.
Obi-Wan. Taika's writing a feature.
Well,
Bryce, I'm sure, is cooking on
John's gone, and Bryce has been on every
consistently
show.
directs every
on every
good
show.
episode, like the best
Yeah.
episode.
She's
Bryce.
on Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka, I want to say.
Yep.
Maybe not
Right.
Ahsoka, but Skeleton
But
for
definitely
sure.
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
So
She's
let's keep
also
this
the
going.
voice of Yaddle now, which is
The voice
crazy.
of Yaddle
That's
now, yeah, that's
true.
right.
Here we go.
The type of lightsaber he fights
highly
with. What's at
featured
stake
in
is
the High
really
Republic.
how Anakin's going to turn out. Because Qui-Gon is different than the rest of the Jedi, and you get that in the movie, and Qui-Gon is fighting because he knows he's the father that Anakin needs. Because Qui-Gon hasn't given up on the fact that Jedi are supposed to actually care and love, and that's not a bad thing. The rest of the Jedi are so detached, and they've become so political that
love
they've
that
really
Favreau's
lost their
like, what
way.
the
And
fuck?
Yoda starts to see that in the second film. But Qui-Gon is ahead of them all. And that's
I
why he's
just
not
thought
part of
the
the
guy in the
council. So
armor
he's
loved the
fighting
baby.
for Anakin. And that's why it's the duel of the fates. It's the fate of this child. And depending on how this fight goes, Anakin is his life is gonna be dramatically different. So Qui-Gon loses, of course. So the father figure, because he knew what it meant to take this kid away from his mother.
Pause.
When he had an attachment.
This
And
is
he's
just
left
for a
with
brief
Obi-Wan.
thought.
Hold on.
Okay.
Obi-Wan trains Anakin at first out of a promise he makes to Qui-Gon, not because he cares about him. When they get Anakin, when they find him on Tatooine, he says, why do I feel like we've found another useless life form? He's comparing Anakin to Jar Jar.
Excuse me.
And he's saying, this is a waste of our time. Why are we doing this? Why do you see importance in these creatures like Jar Jar Binks in this 10-year-old boy? This is useless. So he's a brother to Anakin eventually, but he's not a father figure. That's a failing for Anakin. He doesn't have the family that he needs. He loses his mother in the next film. He fails on this promise that he made to mother, I will come back and save you. So he's left completely vulnerable. And Star Wars ultimately is about family. So that moment in that movie, which a lot of people I think diminish into just a cool lightsaber fight, but it's everything that the entire 3 films of the prequels hangs on, is that one particular fight. And Maul serves his purpose, and at that point died before George may bring him back, but he died. And that's showing you again how the Emperor is completely self-serving. He doesn't care, he's just a tool and he's using people, and now he's going to use this child. That follows all the way through
I'll pause
to
it
the
there.
line with
We got because this is where it goes off.
Yeah.
This is where Dave's just.
I just wanted to say, as much
Yeah.
as I love Duel of the Fates music, and I love the score of the Phantom Menace, the raw emotionality of that fight without the music is
Just I thought the same
intense.
thing, dude. When he got stabbed and you hear the no with no music.
With no,
Yeah.
just that no, just in a vacuum, is just
It's devastating.
bone
Yeah.
chilling.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's all I
damn
wanted
it.
to say. Just how
That never
affecting
makes
that is.
Yeah.
well, it never fails to make me cry. And what happens after this point on is like
Because now we're getting
let's
into the
see.
Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
This whole part's like a solid 3 minutes, and this shit is just perfection.
This is
Like
romantic,
this
right?
right here is like the best Dave-ism I've ever heard. Like
The
at
cowboy
least,
is cooking.
oh my God, ready? Here we go.
It was like if anyone ever asks you why you like this space wizard stuff so much, you take them to this clip and
Yeah.
you show them this clip, and if they don't feel anything, leave them. They're not worth your time. Just don't worry about it.
I agree, Jerry. Because
Abandoned.
there's something to be said about like, you know, you get what you give, you know, and if you give a lot into this story and you don't get and you get things out of it, then you
Yeah,
obviously
because
play the part of being a viewer.
Star Wars told you how to work the Star Wars machine.
Yep.
It's what's in there, only what you take with you.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Star Wars was very explicit about
That's myth,
mythological
baby.
engagement. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a myth. Anyway, let's keep this thing going. I'm on a roll. This is so fucking awesome.
And which terrified me as a kid when the Emperor tells Luke, "You, like your father, are now mine." And the idea when I was a little kid watching that movie of some evil person possessing my father, making him do things or making him be evil was terrifying. That was like a thought that was horrible. Also, it's amazing when you watch Return of the Jedi that Luke has never done anything that I would call it like he's a bad character. He has like a tendency to be dark. And a lot of people wanted Anakin, oh, he should have been darker as a character. It's not true at all. I believed Luke would turn to the dark side in Return of the Jedi. I believe that was on the table. I believe that he would kill the Emperor. And because of the way George arranged the story, I knew that was the wrong thing to do. When he's saying, you know, you want your weapon, you know, strike me down, I am defenseless. He wants him to give into his anger. He wants him to give into his hate. And the fear, the structure that George has laid out in all the movies is coming to fruition now. And the only thing that's going to save him is not his connection to the Force. It's not the powers he's learned. It's not all these things that are an advantage to him. That's gotten him to the table. But what saves Luke is his ability to look at all that and look at his father and say, no, I'm going to throw away this weapon. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let that go and be selfless. And he says, you know, I am a Jedi like my father before me. But what he's really saying, and why I connect so powerfully to it, is like he's saying, I love my father, and there's nothing you can do that's going to change that. And the Emperor can't understand that connection. Why wouldn't you take this? I'm offering you power of the galaxy. Why wouldn't you take this? And Anakin then in that moment has to decide to be the father that he's never had. He has to give up all the power of the galaxy and save his son. And that's the selfless act that he does in return for his son. And that's what saves him in turn. So the son said the father says the son. And it works out perfectly. And I draw that line all the way from Phantom Menace to Jedi. That's the story of Star Wars.
So when he pops
Everything
the
else,
helmet, you're saying when he pops the helmet off in that moment was part of the
it's
fated arc.
It's all part of the fated arc. It's all part of like why it works and why we care. It's not about X-Wings. It's not about all the things we decorate Star Wars in. It's important. It's part of the genius of it. But we soulfully react like we don't just want an action movie. We want to feel uplifted. And Star Wars is an adventure that makes you feel good. You know, it makes me feel like, wow, I want to be a part of that. So that's what I always go back to with Star Wars is this selfless act and this family dynamic, which is so important to George, so important to the foundation of Star Wars. That's in us. And what I like about it is it is really saying there is a lot of hope out there, that we fundamentally want to be good people, that we can all be driven to do terrible things, but that we can persevere through selfless action. So George has this hopeful story, and it's something that he's reiterated most times I've seen him, you know, after we've been making things without him, is remember to make these stories hopeful. Remember to give that to kids because they really need it. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Did I bring us down?
Wow,
Okay,
no, that is beautiful.
I think we're done.
It's hopeful for me.
Interesting line.
But Dave Filoni likes to make his action figures run up against each other.
When Deb says it's helpful for me, she already knew she had that job at that point.
That's
So
right.
it's an interesting thing to see it with no context.
Scotty, can we use that and that specific quote with the Anakin decides to be the father he never had as the jumping off point for a conversation we had in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, sure. Well, real quick, I want to break down just that scene, but we will gladly go back to that to kind of wrap the whole conversation, because that's one of your favorite things, Jared, that I never had the realization to take a second and think about until we were in my minivan. But
The Boca van.
The Boca van.
The Boca van.
Y'all, that whole moment, with, obviously we can focus on the flap being visible, the arm being cut off, like we can all take a second to reflect on that. And as a kid, how you are almost like, whoa, what's all this mean? It's the first time I think in a kid's movie where subtext is so much more visual than it is spoken, and like you have to really be able to interpret it. I think most kids are smart enough to interpret when when Luke looks at his hand and he looks at Anakin's hand, and they're both robotic hands, and I could be that if I fall to this side. I gave into my anger, and I'm listening to what Palpatine's saying, and I have a quote word for word what George said, which is brilliant. I never heard him say this until listening to this commentary. He says, in this particular Enterprise, I even got the hero dressed in black, so it's basically all shades of black. It was specifically designed to when his hand is cut off with the final confrontation with the sun, there is a big red splotch of color right behind them. Just goes symbolically into the blood of the father and the son, and the move towards hell, possibly. Because this is where this is. This is where it is. This is where he is either going to go to hell or not to hell. He decides not to go. And he says, acting with masks is a very ancient tradition. It is the emotion of story that can carry through, and then the nature of cinema that you can. It's what shots do when you put on either side of the mask and tell you what the mask is thinking. Like that whole scene is a masterclass in filmmaking. It's like you can. I don't care what these auteurs say, or these people that really do believe they're like Star Wars is like made for kids. Sure, it's made for kids, but it's meant to be interpreted throughout your entire life. Be you as a kid or you as an adult going through something that maybe traumatized you. Like this, it's all
Star
about
Wars is
reflection.
for kids insofar as we get everything we're seeing. We just don't have
Yes.
the words to explain it.
Yep.
We like 10-year-old Jared understood everything he was saying. 25-year-old Jared has now read Campbell and has listened to audio commentaries and understands mythology and can put words behind the feelings it gave us.
Because Star Wars is
and it
about,
goes to
in a lot of ways,
that Ken quote.
Yeah, it's about the in-betweens. It's about the intangibles. Like, it speaks in a very that's the real conversation about using red and blue and assigning a color to villains, is because that's visual cinematic language for that young audience, that when they meet someone new like Maul or Count Dooku, even if they don't really understand what's going on, they see that and they're like, oh, it speaks to them in that way. Black clad characters where you're like, okay, Luke shows up and he chokes the Gamorreans. Like, as a child, you might not understand that you are watching a morality play about a final choice, but at the same time, you understand that this is not your hero from the first two, that something is up, something feels weird. It's for children on a really primal instinct level. And then it continues to grow with you if you allow it to, and you become different characters throughout. I mean, all of us are Luke and Rey and little Annie and Ezra and Cal. We're all those kids. We're little Leia.
And
But
Grogu.
We're Grogu. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're Ragnar Vizsla, just being like, the fuck. I got get carried away by this shit. And you got your jetpacks. Your jetpacks got you like half a mile down the road.
Yeah.
You're gonna let it take me.
Yeah.
Like we are all those people. But then as we revisit it, suddenly we're Obi-Wan. And then later on we revisit it, and then we're older Obi-Wan, or we're Luke in Last Jedi, or we're Han, and we're like, why am I falling into these patterns, and can I make a better choice? And it keeps speaking to you in different ways. Star Wars should be everyone from Nubs all the way to Luthen Rail.
Yep.
That is all Star Wars.
Yep.
Oh, I want those two to have a dinner together. Like,
Incredible.
have a conversation. Can you imagine?
Well, as I've established,
Yeah.
there is no canon info about Poobahs. So Nubs is
It could happen.
Nubs is he's gonna live like 10,000 years.
I mean, super strong. But no, like, yeah, like y'all are saying, and again, I know I at the beginning kind of made my point of this is the one that you're wanting to play on the playground and things like that.
Yeah.
It's the one that inspires imagination. And again, like you're saying, Star Wars is important in every walk of life because there are elements for everything. Like again, like you're saying, like I going on this side of a divorce, being a dad, like a single dad now, have picked up things that I never have picked up before back when I was a kid and things like that.
Sure.
It's a necessary. It's just there's hardly anything like this. Mythology again is supposed to teach you lessons. It's a sure morality for kids, but it's supposed to teach everyone something. And so that's
Absolutely.
why it perseveres. It perseveres because no matter what part of my life I think I'm in, I don't think I'm ever gonna not like Star Wars because
Yep.
again, I'm still finding meaning in it. I still like I will watch things, rewatch things, and I will pick up a line that I have not maybe picked up in years and just run with that and use that, right? Like I get a line from pretty much every High Republic book and put it on my door. I write it down and put it on my door to keep me going and stuff, you know, throughout the week. And that's anyway, and I know that's Star Wars as a whole, but just I mean Return of the Jedi absolutely
Well,
is
that's where it found its bearing.
genesis of that idea. I think it's
Yeah.
where it comes from
And-
in this.
Well, hold on, what you said, man, like, you know, and I've talked to you guys about this before, you know, like that, you know, when you're a kid, you're Luke, you're Leia, you're Grogu, you're Ezra. Dude, when I was like, I always gravitated towards Anakin and gravitated towards Kylo as a teenager, you know, because I had this like weird relationship with a lot of like the people around me where like a lot of mostly my friends, like it wasn't so much my family, but like I had a lot of that like angst of like, you know, that whole like, you know, the if the child doesn't feel the warmth from the village, he'll feel the warmth from burning it down. And like
Ooh.
I was that friend on the outside. I felt that level of like of anger and resentment. And like I related to that so much. And the older I get and the more peace I make with it, stories like Return of the Jedi make me want to be like Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
You know, and like I as a young adult, you know, as an older teen, as a young adult in my mid 20s now, you know, I have those moments where I'm like where I for the first time am finding myself relating to Luke or relating to Obi-Wan.
Yes.
You know, that like is that like that's a brand new feeling for me. I've been a fan for it as long as I can remember. And aside from being like a little kid and just loving like this heroic fairy tale in space, the moment I was capable of putting myself in a character's shoes, it was always Anakin. It was always Vader. It was always Kylo Ren. It was like, and I didn't like that about myself, you know. But Return of the Jedi, the older I get, the more and more this story makes me want to be a hero.
Because this
you
story,
know?
this chapter is about your better potential, right? Like we've talked a lot about the myth as Favreau called it, the faded arc and everything, and like that's important. But even the non-magical characters are still a part of that. You look at Han, who is my favorite Star Wars character next to Sabine Wren, and like it gets said a lot. I don't agree with it that Harrison is sleepwalking through this movie, that he didn't try in Jedi. Han has nothing to do. It's so fucking false because like there's no resolution to Han, Leia, and Empire, an expression of love that is Hanified, where he's like, you know, kind of gonna wink about it on his way out. Like it's finished here. I think it was in Ken Knapsack's Why We Love Star Wars, his essay book,
Great book,
which is a wonderful book. He talks
Fantastic
about how
book.
their story as a couple, and therefore Han's story of acting on his better potential, the romantic that he is. When we see him as a young man in Solo, a Star Wars story, he's an idealist. He's a romantic. He wants to come back, get the girl, live free, see the stars, you know, put his lucky dice on the dash and go. That guy, he tried desperately to snuff him out as a defense mechanism. And then what do we have here? He goes from, you know, I'm in it for the money, but I kind of like you guys. I'll help you in New Hope. Then the second film, he's got a foot in and a foot out the entire time.
Yep.
And then this one, he's got the camouflage duster on. He's General Solo, legitimately, with no more Jabba death mark, no foot out. He's in, and he's going to lead it. And he continues to lead it in canon. And that has, further effects and everything, like being with Poe's dad, all that stuff that's really nerdy and fun. But that's the moment. That's the moment when she says, this is a man I could live a life with. Like, this is it. And he realizes better potential. And even Lando, who has a little bit less to do here than he did in Empire, steps up. And they even have that moment of like, look at the two of us. Like, this is a film that says, look around you and consider the better instinct of everyone around you. Like, you don't want to assume that people are going to be stuck in their patterns, because you have, this scrum rat from Corellia and this gamesman from the gold system that come together and end up being leaders here, and they choose a better path, and they have nothing to do with the magic. They have nothing to do with the Force. They're not children of destiny. They're not fighting emperors. But they have to be there because they decide to commit to friends, to lovers, and that stuff is so valuable. And you want to be those guys. You want to be these people that come together. And that's why I fucking love Tebow, man. Like, Tebow's my glub shitto. Because I love Ewoks. Sorry, Taylor. But like, when you
it's okay,
look up...
she's asleep. We were free to talk about
good
Ewoks without my dearly beloved shit take.
A biology fucking dump in the comments.
Don't wake her.
It's like there's I think it's those books that were like rewrites of the OT that have like those, like the blue cover, the red cover, the green cover. They were like for like, I think YA. They established, and this is canon, when the Ewoks were called upon after they meet them and decide not to eat them, Chief Chirpa has to make a decision. And Logray, who has the sort of bird beak up here, he's got the staff. He's the medicine man of the tribe. He says no. And Tebow, much like Lin-Manuel Miranda's Broadway version, the Broadway version of Alexander Hamilton, not the real man, he wrote their way out. He stood up that night and wrote in the native Ewokese a plea to all the tribes that would read it, begging them to come and stand. Because at that moment, it was like, there's a Star Trek thing, but you look at Picard when he says the line must be drawn here. Like, this is it. Are you going to be the guy that she can marry? Are you going to be more than just a scumbag Baron administrator? Are you going to be more than just a bunch of Ewoks in the desert letting them walk all over you? Are you going to be more? Are you going to be more? Are you going to be more? That's what this movie is asking you. Like, when is enough enough? And I don't even know how I started on this point, but it's just like, when people, again, I say this 1,000 times a day now, it's my catchphrase now. There are people that think Jaws is about the shark. Like, there are people that think E.T. is about the alien. Like, and there are people that think this is about Pew Pew. And they're so abysmally wrong.
Yeah.
That I pity them to a certain degree. But that's why when people say, like, oh, you're a Star Wars, like, content creator or a Star Wars host about any of us, or it's like, yeah, sure.
And that's the thing.
But it's like, I feel like we're Star Wars advocates. Like,
yeah,
we have, like, it's not like I like everything that they do. Like, it has nothing to do with that. That's bullshit. That's Twitter. Like, it's that all it did was ask me to think about it with some care. That's all it did. And, people love to try to gotcha you by talking about, like, capitalism and, oh, Ewoks sell toys and Luke got a new lightsaber because it sells toys, or like, yeah, you're very smart. But
yeah,
this is all this in between is so key.
That's what we live for. Also, these are the conversations I dream of.
Yeah. Also, Chewbacca has bangs in this movie inexplicably.
They
the only film that he has a different hairstyle. Only film that he has a different hairstyle.
Best Chewbacca look, honestly. Like,
what happened to him, man?
That's all I got for you. That's all I got.
Return of the Jedi, Chewie. I'm sorry.
I pulled some
Chewie.
some photos from the J.W. Ritzler book, and then it'll lead into our final conversation with Jarod about the what if, or not even the what if, the how does this make you feel thing. But here's a solid promo shot of Mark Hamill that
Oh wow, we should.
I
All
mean,
get
like,
one
Hell yeah.
here
we
for-
should all just pose up like it. Like
I
he's
love that Luke does like get several very subtle costume changes throughout the movie.
yeah.
Like when he starts, he
Awesome.
has the cloak and the tunic on.
Yes,
when he's
he has
on
the
Jabba's
This is
brown-
almost like a
barge.
Rocketeer looking,
Brown
kind of
cloak.
like tunic.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
very dark brown cloak. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
God.
then like eventually by the time they get to end, he has the poncho. And by the time like he leaves Endor, he just takes the tunic off to face
Yep.
Vader.
God, it's good. And this is pretty. And then he of course puts the other, the indoor poncho on too. Whenever he's he's got the helmet on and everything. But I agree. This one's pretty cool. I never saw this one before. This is a promo poster. Would have been. It's kind of cool. Him opening the door and Vader being behind him. I really like this. In the mouth of Vader. I don't think it's pretty cool. This one is the scene we're referring to. Amazing. I mean, like literally. Oh, the framing of it. Unbelievable. And Mark Hamill was a tiny dude. I've met him. He's a tiny little guy.
Jared could probably go in on this a little before we close out. And I know you guys have a lightsaber point you wanted to make that
Yeah.
you wanted my opinion on. I don't know if this is it, but like what form would you describe Luke as here? Because I've always loved the fucking over the head like
So it's funny you mentioned that.
This
Luke
drunk with a baseball bat that he just turns into at the end is fantastic.
Luke is a part of the proud Skywalker lineage of Form 5 specialists, and there is quite literally a Form 5 attack called Falling Avalanche,
Hell yeah.
where you like channel your force-based physical augmentation into just a straight up hammering down on some poor son.
When
of a
you
bitch.
say the lineage, do you mean including Leia and Rey or just the boys?
Though I mean the boys, like the straight,
Oh, okay.
like the Vader to Luke to Ben, like
Ben too. Okay.
because I in many ways count Vader as one of Luke's students martially. Like by
strength hammer.
I was
very true.
Can someone
Very
take
true.
the Eli take the scene where Luke just Vader's hand off and add like the bonk ding 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 ding. Holding the like wired stump.
Yeah, this is a cool
Wired
shot too
stump.
right here.
The
I
name
love
of my new
this.
punk band, by the way.
Marquand and McDermott just chilling there, just going over script stuff.
The
Like
lightsaber sitting on the
I
throne.
never thought of Marquand the same. And it's cool, and there's a very Scrimshaw there's a very Scrimshaw knapsack thing. Star Wars, and Jerry and I told this too, but anytime you watch a new Star Wars thing, especially a movie, it always changes your perspective of what came before and what came after. And like today's when I listen to the commentary, which I suggest all of you doing if you have it on Movies Anywhere. I don't think they have it on Disney Plus, but Jerry, him and I share Movies Anywhere account, and we have all the Star Wars on one account in 4K. I love you, Jerry. Thank you for buying that thing. But
Hey,
that
you're
being
welcome.
said, he talks about how Marquand Lucas.
It's okay.
straight up
It's not. It's an illness. It's fine.
Yeah,
Jerry
it's
just did the "I do what I can for my hose" kiss.
literally.
Like he did.
Lucas says
Hey, he
something I
knows.
never
He knows
heard.
he's one of my bad bitches. It's fine.
That's some Lando shit.
Lucas straight up says Marquand's better at setting up suspense and setting an atmosphere than I ever can. And I was like, whoa, like that's a pretty bold claim from Lucas. So like to see him work with the characters in this scene's amazing. But the moment that Jared's been wanting to go off about, I'm gonna let him have his moment right here because we're gonna wrap up pretty much right after this. But Jared, you had came up what?
Real quick. Look at Ian just chewing up the scenery sitting in that chair. Like,
right.
He's
Have
not
you guys
even
seen
in
the
a
clip
take.
from
He's not even in
Celebration
a
where he
take.
talks about how the chair works?
No, from this one. This
Yes.
most recent one.
So Ian was getting interviewed this past Celebration, and he was talking about how that chair was built with a motor to do the dramatic turn around when Vader and Luke enter the throne room. But every time they tried to do it, the chair was like just a little too slow, and they couldn't get the scene right. So Ian McDermott is, to harken back to Robot Chicken in his little fucking sit and spin, pushing. So like. And he's just like kind of like tippy toeing, swinging the chair around. Young Skywalker, like literally just playing it in the chair like it's a sit and spin because the motor didn't work.
Oh,
So he
that's
had to
amazing.
like push off to spin the chair.
I was gonna say you don't see much of the tippy
That's so
toeing.
funny.
No.
Can you imagine
No,
if
it
you
plays
saw
really
like
well.
like
Yeah.
And just like the good fortune too to cast a young
kicking
man
his
in that
feet.
role, and that way he could keep playing
Oh
forever.
my
They couldn't have
God.
known that, but like it's so good.
no.
Okay. What is
Well,
this?
here it is. I'm gonna
Yes.
actually get a couple of
The
images
big-
pulled up on it
big
because
moment.
this is a great.
So you brought this
scene.
up while you were all in NOLA.
Yes.
Were you
So
watching Jedi? Like what
no,
was
it just came up. We were just
Okay.
talking, just chopping it up, talking about Star Wars as we do. And you know, I've always said
I'm
that
trying to find a shot of it. Sorry.
when that the conversation Luke and Vader have at that landing pad is the beginning of Anakin Skywalker waking up and accepting the fact fully and truly, not only that he's been played, but recognizing what he's walking into. And we talked a little bit about this when you were gone earlier, Scotty,
Okay.
that, you know, the poetry, the connective tissue between revenge and return, that Vader has now assumed Count Dooku's role. That you are now the final audition. You know, it's like that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker cracks the pull stick over his knees. Tryouts. You know, that's what the Emperor is doing. Vader has seen him do this before, and he's in this place, and you know, it is this ramping up of Anakin having to accept the fact that like all of this is no longer acceptable and he has to change something. And going all the way back to Dave's quote about Anakin choosing to be the father that Luke never had. I've always wondered, you know, especially in canon now, that we have that first showdown between Vader and Luke that happens right after A New Hope, where Vader finesses Luke, not only disarms him, but takes the sword and goes, wait a minute. This is Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber.
Yep.
And has that revelation that now, about 4 years later in Toto, post taking Luke's hand, seeing Luke again after, oh no, I am your father, that what he sees before him is a carbon copy of Obi-Wan's lightsaber. And the way that Vader might be realizing how, you know, Obi-Wan's failure is complete. You know, he says that. I wonder if Anakin is realizing how final his failure is, how complete his failure is. That Obi-Wan Kenobi, as much hatred and anger and vitriol he has in his heart for the man he killed 4 years ago.
I love this.
So
that he's like, Kenobi was more of a father to you than I ever was.
Oh,
yeah.
Holding Obi-Wan's lightsaber.
Which, like, on the real world level, we fucking know it, like, literally is.
Yeah. We know it's the prop.
Yeah.
But like that whole idea, if he uses the schematics, and we don't know, obviously, you know, by the end
what
of
are
the
what are
year-
the actual literal changes? It's like color, right, or something.
Yeah, it's
like,
not. It's a bright brown on the neck part.
Yeah,
instead
there's
of
like
it
some
being-
very, but yeah, exactly.
But like, and again, we'll see, you know, how we see the green blade play out if, you know, Luke gets his own kyber crystal, if they lean into this fanon idea that Luke needed a green kyber crystal on the fly, and there happened to be one laying around Ben's hovel. That the idea that Anakin Skywalker is holding Obi-Wan's lightsaber with the heart of Qui-Gon Jinn in it.
And the color of Yoda, as Will, Will points out here in the
The
comments.
color of Yoda, potentially the crystal of Qui-Gon in the shape of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
In the hand that is kind of his own.
Yep.
In a robot hand. He is what he faces, Jared, in a lot of ways, just to build on what you're saying, this beautiful revelation, like I'm going to be thinking about this for days, is the synthesis of the negotiator and Sky Guy. Like, he's looking at if the two of us were fused, this kid, my son, it is all of us, and he has to face it. Like that robot hand holding this synthesis of these figures is like, it's also the indictment of himself. Like he has to look at that and be like, he's holding guys that were better than me. And what did I give him? A fucking robot hand. Like this, what I tried to turn him into me.
I gave him the beginning steps of me forsaking my own humanity and personhood.
Yeah, I tried to
sent
drag
down
him
that
down
path
to my
again.
level, whereas that's now, Jarod, because of you, I will never. And this, truly, you should be so proud of that analysis. It's beautiful. I will never hear the line like, "You have constructed a new lightsaber," when he's just sort of checking it out.
He's like
that's
ringing
terrifying.
it. He's ringing it. I cannot look at that and not see like something in the hands of somebody who is
having an anxiety attack.
He seems heartbroken.
Yeah.
Like I like in his body language, and then you have that longing moment where Luke leaves and he's just staring out into the forest. And I think that is the beginning.
Amazing.
And I've always said that's the beginning of Anakin Skywalker waking up.
It's not when Luke's on the ground getting shocked. It's not that soon. It's he doesn't realize it's happening. Then when Luke is getting shocked, it's like he looked over his shoulder and he saw himself. Like, oh shit! Like I was already turning. And to build on that, something that I've talked about with a few different people, which is just I've talked about a lot with Charlie Ashby on my show and different things, is that you also look at his daughter, who he just finds out he has in this film, and her lightsaber is a Ben Kenobi riff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now that means so much more because of their friendship when she was a little girl. And then his grandson's lightsaber is a Skywalker Kenobi, sort of with a little bit of rose gold like his mom at the top. Like, like he can't escape any of this. It's in the mythic tradition of his family more than fucking blood. Like that stuff didn't matter as much as the bonds that they had. Man.
We can watch that scene real quick. We can watch that 3-minute scene if y'all want. I have it pulled up.
I'd love to. And then we can close on arguing about no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh man.
Here we go. What a great movie.
Listen,
this really is the best.
This is father abuse, by the way. I want you to know.
This is abuse. I'll turn it down a little bit so it's not too loud.
In it tonight, but I love it.
Say it again, Jerry.
I was saying we are testing our.
We'll do this again. This worked really well last time.
We're testing the gods here, the fates.
This movie has so many wild ass shots. I forgot this shot existed. Him walking off the thing by himself. Yeah. This movie has the most weird, subtle shots. This is a wild shot.
And as we learned from Pablo when you asked him, this has the most repurposes.
Yep. Repurposes. Yep.
Of the original trilogy.
This is a crazy shot too.
God, the balls on Luke in this scene. He doesn't give a fuck about.
No, look at him, dude. Look at him.
Although he denies it, I believe there may be more of them, and I request permission to conduct a further.
Dude, Hamill's such a good actor, man.
He was armed only with this.
Only with this, and look at that. Think about that.
This is when he's like disgusting. Vader is shook.
Conduct your search and bring his companions to me.
Yes, my lord.
I love that Luke never rats him out either.
No.
He wouldn't, but
I know, Father.
What a drop! I know, Father.
Wait. Never rats out who? Who are you talking about?
Like he like the rebels never end up getting caught. You know what I mean? Like
oh yeah.
He doesn't even talk about
people.
it.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, rebels.
Irrelevant.
Anyway, Anakin.
Yeah. Nope. It has nothing to do. And even Vader doesn't push him for coordinates.
Vader
or
doesn't give a shit.
No, yeah. He don't care.
This is family business. This is
This is the Godfather.
Well, then again, like what I was saying, like my interpretation of this scene, that like when he sees that lightsaber hilt, and it's like,
because he hasn't seen it since New Hope. When he killed him.
When he killed him.
And what did he do with it?
Kept it like a fucking trophy.
Probably blew up on the Death Star. If not, kept it. Yeah.
And like seeing that, like again, like trying to like mentally process, like, oh, why does his lightsaber look like Obi-Wan now? And then immediately gets, yes, father. Like
And
it's just
added like not only is it Obi-Wan's, but it's he was holding mine and he moved on from that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that was my big
God
thing when we were
bless.
talking in the Bo-Katan.
A slap,
that-
dude. A slap.
I know, Father.
Shook.
So, you have accepted the truth.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
Should really not shake that in. That
I would say pause it. Pause it. That is Darth Vader doing the Fabian Martell TM, wildly gesturing with a lightsaber.
That's amazing.
Stream Ionized Bastards on YouTube.
That you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
It is the name of your true self you've only forgotten. I know there is good in you.
God,
The Emperor has
operatic
given it to you
dialogue.
fully.
That look.
Star Wars.
Right
That
here.
was why you couldn't destroy me.
Turns his
That's why you
back
won't
on
bring
him
me to your Emperor
because he
now.
knows you're not gonna strike.
You can just see him so deflated too in the saber.
Look at him.
flows.
Oh, he looked at the saber. You saw that? There
Yeah.
you go, Jared. That's
I love
the
that.
payoff right
I
there.
love that subtle look, though.
Yep, that
right
Luke
there.
is back.
And
Like,
that green ignition sound is the best ignition sound.
Oh, it's the greatest.
It's cat. It's got it's sharp.
I see you have constructed a new
I
lightsaber.
feel like Luke's almost questioning his choice
He's
in that moment a
reaming
little
it.
bit.
He's-
Your skills are complete.
God.
What a scene.
Indeed, you are powerful, as the Emperor has foreseen.
Come with me.
Dude, Hamill's a bad motherfucker, man. He's
Dude,
got so
in
much
this
going on
movie?
behind his eyes.
Are you kidding me?
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Great line.
See, and again, that's another thing. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like he's immediately taken to that place. Why? He's holding Obi-Wan's legacy in his fucking hands. In the
and now
hands.
you can insert a whole ass miniseries into
Yeah,
that moment.
literally.
You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
I will not turn.
God, and I love how
And you'll be forced
Jedi,
to kill me.
this film, I don't know if you want to pause it or not, but this film, you have in I think all the Star Wars movies, some variation, but especially in Empire, you don't know the power of the dark side. Derogatory. Like,
Yeah,
you don't know the
yeah,
power of
yeah.
the dark side. Threat.
Yeah.
This is, you don't know the power of the dark side. I'm broken. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what it's done to me. You don't know the
Yes.
power of the dark side. Victim. Like,
Yeah.
this is a completely
I'm a
different
product of it.
tonality. And
Threat,
James Earl Jones.
pride.
Yes.
Hurt.
James Earl Jones just does a slight sadness. I must obey my like,
Yep.
it's not these are selling points, join us. This is get out if you can, kill me if you can, kill yourself,
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
Because there's not like he's trying to give him outs without saying it. But he also will kill him, as he showed. Like, there's that great debate now that we have a full picture of Anakin Skywalker. When Luke force pulls his lightsaber and ignites, did Vader block to save Palpatine, or did he block to stop Luke from becoming?
God,
I think he
Luke.
blocked. I don't know. I don't think he knows. I
Yeah.
don't think Vader
Yeah,
knows.
I think it's just this is not it. Somehow this is not it. Like, he's lost control. Like, that's a very
Yeah.
19-year-old Anakin Skywalker. Ignite before I think.
Well,
Like,
that's one of my favorite things about Empire Strikes Back that I've always said is that, like, Vader's entire plan to lure Luke to Cloud City hinges on Luke being his fucking son.
Yes. Literally.
It hinges
yes.
on Luke being his father's child.
Yeah.
And like he's gonna rush in,
He has
gung ho,
dumb
save his
instinct
friends
built
like a
in.
fucking idiot, run straight into a trap, fail to save his friends because he's working alone like a dipshit, and lure him into a sword fight. Then what does Vader do in the sword fight? He doesn't go all in. He's Darth fucking Vader. We saw
Yeah.
what he did to Cal Kestis. We saw what he did to fucking Seer Junda in the first game. Like, we know what he can do. We know he is a powerhouse. We know, in my
we saw that
opinion,
he
he's
fought Reva without having to ignite a blade.
Yeah,
Yep.
He just
he
really
chose to
dodged
engage her blade to blade as like a customary here,
Here
and
you go.
threw her own sword back to her. You know,
God.
as an
like
insult. Yeah.
and he chose to go easy on Luke in that moment, not out of pity. He's like, I want to watch you cook. I want to see if you can scrap. And then Vader watches Luke score hits on him. He sees Luke overpower him. He sees Luke score physical blows. And then when Luke gets that big glancing blow off of his shoulder, that's when Vader goes, okay, and we're done. Takes his hand. But like
Yes.
he was banking on him being his father's child. And my hot take, Luke, I'm not going to say that Vader let Luke win here. Vader was just like in Empire, he was not fighting to kill.
Yes.
He did not go in full strength. The plan
Nope.
was to turn Luke, not to kill him. Maybe
Yep.
even to turn Luke so he could help, so Luke could help him jump Sidious.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Vader, in a moment where he was like not in the headspace to go full power on Luke, when Luke gives himself over to the dark side for that brief moment, just like Anakin did to push him over the line to defeat Count Dooku, Vader is met with this barrage where we see Darth Vader, a man who is 6'5" with metal limbs, who we've seen fight all manner of ridiculous humanoid, gets overpowered. He
Yep.
gets out brute forced.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Luke
it's
does
because-
not get him with finesse.
No,
at all.
No, he hacks him apart like Anakin would.
Well, he gives in, and that's what makes TLJ one of the best Star Wars movies, is because Ryan found a way to bring that aspect of Luke back out. Because if he does it in his I guess hardest moment, he will do it again, through failure.
Yeah,
He
through
learned
failure
from his
and-
masters
and
before
after
him.
successes, and
Yeah.
what I love is, God, especially when you get to the just before Attack of the Clones flashback and Kenobi Part 5, you get Anakin wailing on Obi-Wan in a Vader-esque way in
Right.
their training session, and he does the "you are beaten." The only thing that could have taken this to the next level is if Mark Hamill had said, "You are beaten, father," or like
Yep.
something like that. Like that would have
Yeah.
been like the next thing.
Like this trinity of that
Yeah.
repetition of the line.
Not that we need to add more lines to this sequence, which is a nice segue. And see what I did there?
It is a good segue. It is a beautiful
Uh,
segue. Oh,
Okay, Alden, you speak your piece
Man
on
is a
no.
professional.
Yeah, before
I have like a whole essay on why the no
Before I
is
get
good.
cooked
and
by
I'm
the
going
three
to,
of
and
you
I'm
for-
going to run headlong into Alden on this.
I don't have any passion. There's not a single, honestly, there's not a single special edition change that I feel upset about. Like, I'm an adult. It's not some attack on like Star Wars or whatever. They exist. It's a fable. Han Greedo. I've always subscribed to the Pablo Hidalgo thing of Han and Greedo both went into Chalmun's Cantina that day. Han lived. Greedo was killed. Reports vary. Like,
chat,
that's
please
that's
bring
sort of
your
what it is.
input. By the way, chat. I
Do
just
we
wanna
like
see
No by
Do we
Vader?
like No by Vader?
Someone should put up a poll too. Pull up a
In
poll.
case, in case nobody knows what we're talking about, in the
Yes.
Blu-ray in 2011, alongside the hilarious Obi-Wan Kenobi screech, which I got to hear again today when I
And
was
the
watching A New
Ewoks
Hope.
that blink.
And I
They
forgot
made them
about the
blink
blinking
with
Ewoks.
CG. Yeah.
It's like that video of that guy with the weird cat, like blink, motherfucker. I don't know if any of you know what I'm talking about.
Nope.
That'll be sent into goons later. But whenever Sidious is electrocuting Luke, and Vader's like looking between Luke and Sidious and Luke and Sidious, we, instead of it just being a silent "all right, up you go" to throw him down the reactor shaft, Vader goes no, and then he grabs the Emperor and hoists him up and yeets him.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. That's it.
I don't feel upset about any of them. Would I have maybe kept, Han and Greedo the way it was? Sure, but I don't care. There's nothing that I feel I kind of brush up against except this one. And it's because I understand why it was done. Man, I'm sure Jarod, you'll have more arguments for this, but on a base level, I'm pretty sure it's make it explicit for the children.
Okay, that's fair.
Try to illustrate a little bit more of the tension. It's a peak moment. There's a lot going on. Kids might be distracted by Palpatine. They might not understand that guilt and fatherhood are coming to the forefront. He's a faceless character. That could be it. I understand that. I just think that in the same way that Deborah Chow tapped into Din Djarin and Vader as faceless characters, and the emotionality of just pointed head turns and shifts in body language. Like, I still think one of the most beautiful moments ever delivered in Star Wars is Din and the Sin deciding to go save Grogu. When he sees that the little ball is not on the thing, and he's like, sort of drops his head, does one of these, and then just gets the fuck up all abruptly.
Yeah,
like, it's
they
so
do.
powerful. And I think that this Vader moment without the nose is such like a we're beyond words. Like, the no of a 22-year-old man who thinks he killed his wife in Sith makes a lot of sense. 22-year-old man burned to a crisp, feels like he lost everything, that he betrayed everything, doesn't want to admit it to himself, won't admit his own fault, has just been told that she's been killed by him. That no, I think, is the Frankenstein no that makes a lot of sense. That's powerful. This is the 45-year-old crispy Vader who has already begun, as we established in that walkway scene, the transformation. And I think that everything that needs to be said has been said. Every apology accepted, Captain Nada. Every you are beaten. Every you don't know the power of the dark side on both ends of that phrasing. Everything's been said. And now there's just the next right choice. And there is no thing. It's just, you got to fucking go. Like,
yeah.
And I've got lots of thoughts about Vader tossing him and why that's not actually the myth ending, and why Rey not attacking him is the true myth ending. But that's my whole thing with this, is that I feel like I don't think that this Vader is at the let me exclaim loudly the change.
Sure.
So that's my thing.
So for me, it's less to do with the change. I mean, the change is a big part of it. But going back to that great, you don't know the power of the dark side, I must obey my master.
Mm-hmm.
How like almost labored and like defeated he sounds in that moment. We're going on what, 25 years of subjugation to Sidious.
Yeah.
Of him. And again, Anakin made choices. This is not the Anakin Skywalker like hand washing hour here. Anakin made choices, but those choices were facilitated and in many ways forced by the Emperor.
Sure.
And Vader has had to go along with a government and a master and a mentor and a leader and frankly an owner who has subjected him to torture, emotional and physical alike, who has put him in situations that he should never have been forced to be put into, even after being locked into the suit. Anakin Skywalker is yet again a slave.
There you go.
And in this moment, for the first time since the moment he pried himself off that table on Coruscant, defiance rings out in his mouth.
There you go. I like
no.
that. Well, look, I think
Amen.
Amen.
No more you, no more Sith, no more any of this bullshit.
Yeah.
Get the fuck away from my kid, you pruny son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like it is that defiance, that refusal of I do not serve you anymore. Step away from my child.
God,
that is why I love it. That is because again, like it's like the Vader story, like Vader, like capital D, capital V, Darth Vader story begins and ends with no. It is the realization that everything that he gave up everything for nothing, and then it is the refutation of allowing himself to live like this any longer. And that is why I love like
both...
and it's because like it starts here. That's what I love. It starts in that like that growl of a wrath of him just no. Like,
it is a nice it's a good performance.
It's a good bit. like at first like I love that he says it to himself. No.
Yeah, that one's
I'm
for
not
him.
doing this anymore. And then it is at the Emperor. No.
Yeah, bitch. Go
Fuck
for your
you.
kid. Woo! The dad in
Dude,
me
you got-
loves that. The dad in me loves that. Look, like you said, pruny bitch. You get over here. We're done. Stop. Yeah.
Listen here, Darth Scrotius.
Well, The cool thing is now we've got Grogu saying no, and even in the same context,
No,
no.
Yeah.
Like
That Grogu no when the Praetorians show up and he puts some stank on it, and he's like,
Yeah.
little face is like,
Bro, he winds up. He cooks
Get away
that
from my
before he.
dad.
it's so.
See though,
Ah.
that, I agree with both interpretations, and honestly, that's the beautiful thing about
I
myth.
see a little. I see both. Yeah.
The beautiful thing about myth is, we also have two different versions of this movie. If you want to find both versions, you clearly
Yeah.
can. Like
And
I've
they're
got copies of both.
They're
They're
both
both equally
right.
valid.
Both the movie.
Yeah, they're both the movie.
Unless
guys,
you think that Victory Celebration isn't as good as Yub Nub, then you're wrong.
Yeah,
Victory
Yub Nub's
Celebration
the
is
shit.
superior.
Yub Nub is the shit.
Yub Nub is
Nub
really fun
played
and cute,
in
but Victory
universe.
Celebration does not feel as, or I'm sorry, Yub Nub does not feel as triumphant as
Yub
Victory
Nub, I
Celebration.
subscribe to
Yeah.
what Matt Martin has said, which is that Yub Nub is what was played in universe.
That's
There you
what
go.
they're singing. It's
That's what they
diegetic.
are jamming to at the party.
That's right.
Yes.
I love how perfectly he divides this
All of
view.
us.
It's just a perfect.
He's perfect.
This
Yeah.
is the
Love
battle
this
for
guy.
Bombad Daniel's soul.
Yeah, I got it right there.
Incredible.
Also, we now have a Roosevelt's majority on screen.
That's true.
Here we go with his great logic. That's
Bombad
right.
Daniel.
It's just
You're
coming
goddamn
in
right.
on
Well,
brand.
Bombad Daniel would
On fucking brand, y'all.
please
Good
cast
Lord.
me. I want to play the villain in your movie.
Yeah, but it's gonna be someone better than you. Someone who can actually be a good
Darth
villain.
J.
Darth J. Y'all, tonight has been amazing. Again, we have had a blast talking about this movie. Jerry and I, we've been wanting to do like a revisit on all the movies, and this is, I think, the beginning of a kind of a long path for us, because this is, God, I love this movie, and I love that we can all talk together. I want to get some plugs going on from here. Let's start with Jared. Jared, what's going on in your life? You seen this movie this week? What's going on with that?
Yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow night.
yeah.
I can't wait. Return of the Jedi. I say that The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. My number one and number two are pretty much tied of it being both of the Jedi movies.
Yeah.
It's just The Last Jedi just like changed me as a fan.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alden referred to it earlier. My actual appearance on Octo Radio, not counting Fandom Menace and how we got here, the whole renewing your vows with Star Wars. That's what happened to me with The Last Jedi. So check out my episode on Octo Radio. But you guys can find me and all of my talking about nerd stuff at the Nerd Academy podcast, wherever you get podcasts, and the video version on YouTube. We have a really cool Star Wars Versus series for our $5 patrons, so consider checking that out.
yeah.
Alden and I are both cast members of Ionized Bastards, a Star Wars RPG show. I don't know when we're going to be
QR
starting.
code.
Click it, watch it. Takes place like around it takes place around the Mandoverse timeline. It's been so much fun. Season 2 is going to be coming out by the end of the year. I'm going to use the dirty C word Alden hates. It is the most fun content creating I've ever had. There's no other word for it. There's no other word. Invent a word. Invent a word that is an easier catch-all than content, and I will use it.
Yeah.
I don't like saying content either. But
I got one. Let me go next.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Let's
You got to
hear
plug
from
Epic Confrontations too.
our wonderful friend right here, Aldonius Diaz.
Hello.
Aldonius.
Yeah, my name's Alden Diaz. You can find me personally at that.
Etrigan.
THATALDNDIAZ, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can find me in all of my material. You can find me in all of my output. You can find me in all of my creative endeavors. You can find me in all of my broadcast adventures. You can find me and all of the stuff that I create. You can find me in all of my media engagements.
Engagements.
Try a little harder. At those social links, Octa Radio Star Wars Podcast is where I do all the interview shows. Going to be having some of the directors from Star Wars Visions coming on for individual episodes. as well as some more High Republic stuff, some author stuff coming up as well. Have some friends revisit. I know that Chase, that gay Jedi, is going to be coming on.
Yes.
And so we're going to be doing a conversation with them soon. I also want to get some of our other friends on as well. I got to get the Bombad boys back on. In my
Eli's
Facebook.
right. This is Alden's third win, and I'm about to turn fucking heel again right now.
That's true.
He's right here. He is right here.
ACAB, baby. ACAB. Facebook told me that it's been 3 years a couple days ago since Bombad came on Octo Radio for the first time. Start crossover.
Oh, dude.
Crazy. So we got to rectify that. Casually Talk with Ken Knapsack, talking about the Worlds of Ice and Fire, Lord of the Rings, Willow, all the fantasy stuff over there with Ken. And yeah, writing around the internet. And I will not be seeing Return of the Jedi this weekend, unfortunately, as much as I would love to. But I will watch it as soon as possible because this conversation has been beautiful.
It's been a beautiful conversation. And I can't thank you both for sharing your night with us. I mean, we've been here for almost 3 hours, and we haven't had a Bombadcast that long in a very long time. So I'm thankful that we can express our love for this movie, because it really is the one that I think all of us gravitate towards. And I can't thank all of you enough for being here. This is it's been a really fun discussion. One thing I can plug is next week, not a joke. McGruff the Crime Dog is our
Speaking
guest.
of ACAB.
This is real shit. This is McGruff the Crime Dog. He is going to be our Bombad May the 4th guest. Send it to all your friends that grew up in the 90s and 80s, because everyone younger, like William's like, who's that? And I'm like, okay, you know, they got Smokey the Bear. He's like, yeah, you know, they got the Dare Lion, right? Okay, they got all those people. Well, this is kind of like besides
all those
Smokey,
really fun at parties.
You know how people talk about, like, oh, like your rapper's favorite rapper?
Yeah.
McGruff is your favorite PSA anthropomorphized animal's favorite anthropomorphized animal.
Yeah. So what's crazy is, you know, the meme.
He's the MF Doom.
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Tell him I said that. Tell McGruff.
You should
I
have
compared him to MF Doom.
You should have to tweet that and let the rap community come after you.
So here's this though. I didn't realize
people know my favorite song's Getting Jiggy with It. You think I'm afraid of anybody? You think I'm afraid of any rap heads? I know. I own a physical copy of Big Willie Style. Fuck you.
So
somebody clip that.
I didn't realize this, but apparently the meme "smoking, cracking, cocaine," you know that? That's from a McGruff the Crime Dog song. Not a joke. Fully, I had that realization.
I didn't know he wrote original music. That's great.
Yeah, he has a whole tape. He has a whole tape we're gonna probably listen to. Dead ass serious. But anyway, what, Jerry?
I'm not even sure what all we're going to be doing with Mr. Crime Dog at all.
We'll find out.
We're going
ask him what he's doing about police brutality. I want the answer.
I was gonna. Give me an answer, dog.
Well, he corrected Buck. He corrected Buck in a response.
No, he did not. Buck.
No, yeah, Buck.
The dog did not respond.
Buck said.
He said, "I'm a private eye, not a cop."
Not respond.
The dog did.
Last time I checked, no, the dog did. Really?
The dog responded. The dog said,
Mr. Crime Dog.
Mr. Crime Dog responded to Buck. Let me see if I can find the exact tweet.
While you're looking, tell me what McGruff's @ is so I get this tweet right.
Oh, it's at McGruff at NCPC.
Okay, cool.
So I tweeted it, and Buck O'Brien, being the diligent follower that he is, says ACAB. And then I responded, good thing McGruff isn't a cop. And he said, McGruff responded with private dog detective and safety expert. So we're shit on.
Whoa!
Shit on.
He's a gumshoe.
He's a gumshoe, dude.
He's a gumshoe.
It's Columbo, Angel for supernatural stuff, Charlie from Poker Face, and McGruff.
Oh yes. Listen. You can't because
tweet
now
is
I'm
sent
picturing.
At Dark Jedi 2552. Just saying, at McGruff is the MF Doom of anthropogenic spokes animals.
No, see, now I'm just picturing McGruff, the crime dog, walking away from a suspect that turn and going, just one more thing.
Remember to stay Bombad. Alrighty, y'all. I love all of you in this chat. You stuck through a very long episode, and yes, I think
Oh, go ahead. Oh yeah. This was great. Will was
I have
gonna
one
get
of
a
those. Yeah,
childhood
that's
book.
awesome.
I love Brian telling us here. Please call him Mr. Crime Dog. Oh, call him McGruff. Mr. Crime Dog was his father.
His father. I love you all on screen. You're all great friends of mine, and I can't wait to be able to
Off screen is
you
debatable.
know. I'm excited. I'm seeing it tomorrow as well. I'm driving an hour and a half away to Harahan, Louisiana, which is outside of Kenner,
I'm going
Louisiana.
2.5 hours to watch it with Star Wars Twitter friends.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's playing 30 minutes away, but
Who are you seeing it with?
I'm going with with friends of the show, Loro. Everyone loves Lauren Romo. I'm
Nice.
going with my mortal enemy, Rick Villanueva. Rick Villanueva and I will be trying to not strangle each other in that theater. And then I believe Jason from Blast Points will also be there,
That's
and
gonna
then
be
Andrea from the Galactic Podcast as well. So
This is cool.
be a little
I love this.
mini
The
meetup.
Midwest Avengers up there.
That
The
is
Midwest,
sick.
yes. Yeah,
Well-
we'll just have to get the Chicago crew over sometime. You know,
That's
I just hope that
yeah.
when one of you shows up to the movie theater, everyone that shows up subsequently says, "I'm with you too." And
I'm yeah.
I'm with
I'm
you
gonna
too.
do that tomorrow. I'm wearing my black denim too.
Nice.
So I'm gonna yeah. So
Oh, black
I'm gonna
denim. You
rock
got to
it.
wear this
I'm
shirt.
with you too.
You got to wear
Yeah.
this shirt.
God,
I'm not wearing that. That black. Listen, I don't know if it pairs. It's too much black. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see.
Jay. Very excited to be able to see it tomorrow. I'm seeing it with my cousin Troy, so we're gonna go get some dinner in New Orleans, then go see it and maybe do something after. So it's gonna be nice. All that being
There you
said,
go, buddy.
I love you all. I want to give Alden the Stay Bombad because Jared's a trivia loser. So Alden, let's
Stay
sign
Bombad
out with
since
this.
the first time I was on
Shut up!
this
A
fucking
winner is
show.
talking. A winner is talking. That's right.
Stay Bombad.
Bitch.
Did you say impossible? Pasquale? Only kidding, Chucky. I've changed my tune because I finally thought of a possible dream that we can all share. What is it?
Pasquale?
It's a dream about a world when nobody is poor or sick or hungry.
Oh, now that's a dream we can make come true.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right.
As I point up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind.
I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their need? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top,
And a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer.
If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Oh yeah,
I'm asking him to change his ways.
come on, change. No message could have been any clearer. If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Oh yeah,
I'm asking him to change his ways.
no message could have been any clearer. If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Time for us to take a break, but we wouldn't dream of being gone for long. See you in a little bit.
Real quick, I'm in a very cursed image, just for the enjoyment of everyone. Hold on to your butts. This is gonna freak out people out. Well, actually, I'll just get everyone on screen so we can see some live reactions when I post this image real quick. This is a.
I have to
this
go
is-
to bed like right after.
I know.
this realize
This
right?
this is cursed. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah. Jesus.
No. No. You know what that looks like? You know what it looks like? You know that one teaser poster for Return of the Jedi where it's like Vader's helmet exploding?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. That's it. Goodbye.